On a beautiful morning in a high-rise building, just as the clock struck 11 in the morning, someone suddenly burst into tears and mumbled lamentably, "Poor Gullo." Then she quickly wiped away her tears and thought pensively, "My name is Jella. This is the nth time I've worked overtime this month. The companion who stayed with me through the night of work is my favorite novel, The Hegemonic Emperor and His Delicate Wife, Chapter 189. In this novel, what I like is not the love story of the male and female leads, but the infatuated villain, Gullo. He was born into the most ancient and powerful clan, possessing a talent for combat that was hard for the world too. Imagine, as the sole heir of that clan, he bore the most powerful talent on the continent. This kind of ability far surpassed even the royal family. A purple-haired maid suddenly entered and announced with a frown, "Patriarch, His Majesty the King has arrived." As soon as he saw the king approaching, the patriarch hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings, Your Majesty." This kind of ability made the entire continent watch, and it made people even more wary. Seeing this, he quickly made a request, dispense with the formalities. This king has only come to see what kind of ability this genius, who has the attention of the entire continent, truly possesses. Hearing this, the orange-haired woman frowned and asked doubtfully, "Your Majesty, what do you mean by that?" He suddenly reached out and tightly gripped the patriarch's neck, then replied with a sinister smile, "Naturally, to eliminate a future threat." As if knowing someone wanted to harm him, Gullo immediately wailed. Seeing him pick the boy up, the patriarch shouted accusatorily, "You didn't keep your promise." Staring intently at him, he explained coldly, "A person with the strongest ability will surely make others fearful. However, I will keep this child. I will educate him to become my most loyal subject. The Gullo clan will henceforth be eternally loyal to me." The Gullo couple was unfortunately assassinated by the Empire's masters. I used all my strength and could only save this child. From this day forward, this child will be raised by me personally. Hearing this, all his subordinates hurriedly bowed and said in unison, "The king is wise. We subjects will pledge our loyalty to Your Majesty for the rest of our lives." Reading up to this point, Jella couldn't help but feel pity and think to herself, if he hadn't been subjected to such schemes and disasters, he would have been a perfect person. What a pity. Then she suddenly drooped her eyes and mumbled, I'm suddenly so sleepy." Then she suddenly slumped onto the table and passed out. Immediately after, a light flashed from the phone screen and with a whoosh, sucked her straight into the screen. At this moment, in a magnificent castle, someone was currently standing in front of a room door and frowning slightly and mumbling, "Ah, my neck. This is..." Then couldn't help but think in confusion. Could it be that I was so hungry last night that I sleepwalked and ordered takeout? No, that's not right. Where is this? Could I have been kidnapped? Just as she thought this, Jella realized she was holding a knife in her hand, which made her extremely tense, her face paling as she stared at it for a long time. Then she unconsciously noticed something and quickly thought, "Wait, these clothes." Seeing a mirror covered by a cloth in front of her, she hurriedly pulled it off. Then, while looking at herself in the mirror, she exclaimed in her thoughts, "So beautiful. Don't tell me I've transmigrated." Just then, someone suddenly ordered, "Cover the mirror," which startled her completely. She immediately turned around, pointed the knife straight ahead, and asked loudly with a frown, "Who's there?" Seeing a little boy of about 5 or 6 years old in front of her, she quickly withdrew the knife and asked in a low voice, "Who are you? Can you tell me where this is?" The black-haired boy suddenly stepped back and demanded in alarm, "Don't come over here." Seeing this, she replied, "Okay, I won't come over." Then she thought a little awkwardly, "Why does he look so familiar?" Then she smiled apologetically and said, "Sorry, I was scared too. Maybe we could talk." The black-haired boy asked blankly, "Huh?" Seeing this, she beamed and suggested, "You must be hungry, right? I'll get you an apple pie to eat." Holding the plate of pie, the black-haired boy's eyes widened as he replied. She suddenly sat down and suggested with an embarrassed smile, "Ah, really, this is embarrassing, but how about you make do with this?" The black-haired boy didn't reply, but slowly reached out his hand. Seeing a rather familiar-looking mark on the boy's arm, she couldn't help but be surprised and think, "This is the curse." Just then, someone suddenly knocked, then opened the door and entered, chiding irritably, "Jella, have you been lazy enough? He won't eat it even if you give it to him. What a waste. Hurry to the back kitchen. There are goodies to share. His personality is still so strange. No wonder he's cursed. No matter how nice you are to him, he won't be grateful to you. He's a cursed monster. After hearing this, Jella couldn't help but think suspiciously, the curse, the black pattern, the rose castle. Have I transmigrated into the book? Then her eyes suddenly welled up with tears as she lamented sorrowfully, "Your Gullo. So you suffered so much as a child." Saying that, she immediately placed the plate of pie on the ground. Next, she hurriedly strode towards Gullo, causing him to become extremely alarmed, stepping back while shouting, "Don't you come over here." She paid no attention to this request and hastily grabbed his hand. Then she said gently, "If God has given me the chance to come to your side, then, Gullo, let me protect you." Seeing Gullo shake her hand off made Jella exclaim in surprise, "Ah." He frowned slightly in suspicion. "Protect me?" Handing him the plate of pie, she beamed and suggested, "You have to eat properly to have the strength to talk. You speak too softly. I can't hear you." He reluctantly took the plate of pie, then thought with some self-pity, "Her hands are clean and warm, not like mine." Resting her chin on her hand, she smiled and guessed to herself, he must be 5 or 6 years old now, right? So small and pitiful. Seeing her keep staring at him made him wonder in surprise. Is she looking at me? Disgust, fear. It's neither of those. Seeing him suddenly pull his hand back, as if afraid she would fight him for the food, she couldn't help but be amused and commented with a beaming smile, "Quite the personality." Then she quickly poked his head lightly and asked speculatively, "Are you angry?" He was very surprised by this and quickly asked, "Aren't you afraid?" While patting his head, she replied with a compassionate smile, "There's nothing to be afraid of. You're the biggest victim, aren't you?" Hearing this, Gullo bit his lip tightly. Then he quickly turned away to avoid her gaze. A moment later, while the vicious curse was relentlessly tormenting this small, thin body, causing Gullo to cry out constantly in pain, the maids gathered together and sneered, gossiping, "Hey, you go give food to that monster. I'm not going. If you want to go, you go. It's fine if he doesn't eat, right? Because monsters can't die. Ha ha, can't die." Pointing straight at his face, the pink-haired girl sneered loudly. "What kind of monster is this? It's so ugly." The girl he loved also scolded him. He silently endured countless insults and criticisms. He didn't hesitate to betray the country, using his strongest talent just for the girl he loved. But unexpectedly, when he was captured, she turned her back on him and said reproachfully, "Gullo, you truly disappoint me." Originally a heroic warrior, he ended up dying in disgrace. This time, I have to change his fate. Suddenly hearing a clatter, Jella immediately snapped back to reality, staring wide-eyed at the empty plate in front of her, and said, "Oh, all right, I'll take the plate now. For now on, eat properly, you hear? If there's something else you want to say?" He looked down, thinking in disappointment. As expected, everyone wants to leave. As if knowing what he was thinking, she smiled gently and assured him, "I will come again. Trust me, Gullo." Then she quickly stepped out and closed the door. A moment later, before Jella even entered the room, she heard laughter and chatter coming from inside. "Ha ha ha, come on, let's play more." As soon as they heard her push the door open, the blonde maid hurriedly chided, "What took you so long to deliver the food, Jella? Come and play." She replied coldly, "No, thanks." Then she couldn't help but be a little surprised and thought with relief. So the previous maid was also named Jella. I don't have to worry about being exposed. While stuffing her face, the grayish-blonde maid cheerfully suggested, "You can eat these things with me. Cool, cake, hiv hiv hiv." As she spoke, she accidentally knocked over a glass of wine next to her to the ground, causing the black and red-haired maid to wake up with a start and shout, "Ah, where's the earthquake?" Seeing this, she let out an embarrassed while the other maids burst out, laughing. The blonde maid suddenly grabbed her hand and suggested with a faint smile, "All right, come on. These are the jewels that were brought today. You pick a set. They give less and less each time." She hurriedly refused. No, I won't take any." She casually offered, "Take it. This one suits you." I said everyone gets a share. The little monster won't use it anyway. She quickly clenched her fists and asked with a disgusted frown, "Little monster, don't you all have work to do? All you know is to eat, eat, eat. Where's Gullo's dinner?" The grayish-blonde maid answered calmly, "He's just a little monster. As long as he doesn't starve to death, it's fine." The other maids immediately burst out laughing upon hearing this. Jella angrily slammed her hand on the table with a thud. Then she quickly snatched the plate of food from the table and demanded loudly, "Stop laughing. And you stop eating. From now on, Gullo's meals will be cooked by me, and I will deliver them. Then she strode outside and slammed the door shut. Seeing this, the woman said, annoyed, he's a monster. Even if you take care of him every day, you're just raising an ungrateful wolf. Who knows, he might even go crazy and kill you. Ignore her, let's keep playing. Hearing these words, she couldn't help but feel pity, her eyes welling up as she thought to herself, is this how they treat you, Gullo? A moment later, at Gullo's room, as she walked up to the door, she immediately knocked a few times. Then she opened the door, entered, and said with a bright smile, I'm back. What's wrong? Were you afraid I wouldn't come? I've already talked to them. From now on, I'll be the one bringing you food. Suddenly blinded by the brilliant sunlight shining in his eyes, he had to quickly cover his face with his hand and exclaimed with a frown, ugh, so bright. She smiled gently and said, upright and honorable. I told you, I will stay by your side forever. What? You don't believe me? How about we make a pinky promise, like this? Hearing her say that, he quickly raised his hand and hooked his pinky with hers. Then, blushing with a bit of shyness, he reminded her, you said it, so you have to stay with me forever. She stared at him, stunned for a moment. Then she smiled and said, the nightmares and the people who have harmed you, we will get back at them one by one. Hearing this, Gullo was so moved that he choked up with tears and said, you're the first person to think that I'm not in the wrong. They all say I was born a monster. Jella quickly shook her head and refuted. It's not your fault. No one is born at fault. Saying you're wrong is just a way to control and oppress you. That's all. Leaning his head against her, he said chokingly, I'm not wrong. No one is born at fault. She gently patted his head and said softly, go to sleep, my dear treasure. Have a beautiful dream. As she said this, she immediately considered to herself, if I want him to grow up well, these servants cannot be kept. Next, she stood up and looked out the window. Then she recalled what the grayish-brown-haired maid had said. He's a monster. He might even go crazy and kill you. Next was the reminder from the red-haired maid when her sleep was disturbed by others. Don't be noisy. And finally, the somewhat sinister smile of the blonde maid and her indifferent attitude when mentioning Gullo. Everyone gets a share. The little monster won't use it anyway. Thinking of this, Jella immediately came to a conclusion in her mind. It's her. Does she really think she's hidden herself so well? To get rid of her, I'll have to use the hand of someone more powerful. A moment later, as she threw open the gate, the blonde maid said with a bright smile, the Grand Steward is here. There are many chests on his carriage. They must be of no small value. Jella heard this and frowned, thinking, just when you're sleepy, someone offers a pillow. He's right on time. As soon as they saw the Grand Steward enter, all the servants bowed in unison and said, greetings, Steward Lion. Seeing this, he snorted coldly and said, today His Majesty the King has invited the generals who have just performed meritorious service. Thinking of young Master Gullo, he specially sent me to deliver some things. You all can take them. Seeing the grayish-blonde maid approaching with a casket, Jella quickly stuck out her foot, causing her to trip. She then cried out in pain. Seeing this, she feigned innocence and said, oh my, how embarrassing. Isn't this the reward His Majesty the King bestowed last time? Weren't they all put away? Why did it appear on you? Deceiving superiors and bullying subordinates. Stealing from the master, this is punishable by death. Hearing this, she panicked and tried to explain no, it's not. She didn't care and bluntly tempted. My lord is a clear-sighted judge. If you confess the truth, your punishment might be lightened. Hearing her say that, she quickly bowed and begged, Steward Lion, my lord, it's really not me. I beg you to hear my explanation. It's her. It's because she's always skimming things from the little monster, the young master's things. She brought it all to bribe us. The blonde maid calmly spoke up to clear her name. She's talking nonsense. I have nothing. If I did, why is there nothing on me? Lion heard this and asked, wavering, that's right, why is there nothing on her? Seeing this, the woman was stunned and pointed accusingly. You, just because it's not on you doesn't mean you didn't take it. She hid it in the tunnel under her bed. Steward Lion will know just by looking. Hearing this, she broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly tried to explain, you're talking nonsense, you, Steward Lion, my lord, oh. Jella immediately suggested, we'll know if we investigate. The Grand Steward is here. How could he be deceived by a servant like you? Hearing her say that, Lion raised his hand to signal for silence and proposed loudly, say no more. I will go see for myself. The black-haired guard heard this and bowed, replying yes. A moment later, the black-haired guard quickly suggested, my lord, look. Holding the necklace in his hand, Lion couldn't help but say furiously, well done, all of you are very good, daring to deceive me for so long. Then he slapped the blonde maid straight across the face with a smack, causing her to scream in pain. Then he ordered loudly, stealing a huge amount of the master's property, drag her away, and lock her in the dungeon. The guards replied, "Yes." She screamed in panic, begging, "It's not true, my lord. I didn't mean to hide it." He said furiously, "And you?" She quickly begged for mercy. "Please give me a chance, my lord." He ordered coldly, "Although you were coerced, you still made a mistake. Banish her." Looking towards Jella, she couldn't help but ask in confusion, "No, it shouldn't be like this. Didn't you tell me?" She sneered and continued, "Yes, I told you a long time ago, you can't steal the master's things. And specifically, this is a gift for you. Consider it an apology." Seeing this, she snorted coldly and said, "I guess you know your place." She frowned slightly in confusion and asked, "I thought with your presence, you should be the manager, but now you're being pushed around by others." Holding the ring high in her hand, she answered calmly, "She has better backing. What else can I do? Who am I putting on this act for every day?" She immediately affirmed, "I think even more highly of you. How about this?" After finishing her recollection, Jella's lips curled slightly as she thought, all those years of reading novels weren't in vain. This move is called killing two birds with one stone. Lion commented with a frustrated frown, "These two are really stupid, dogs biting dogs." She quickly spoke up to clarify, "The two sisters behind me were indeed forced." He heard this and said with some amusement, "You're quite interesting. So many people, and only your room has no stolen items." Pushing the treasure casket towards him, she pledged solemnly, "Rest assured, my lord, I know what should be taken and what shouldn't. Today, thanks to my lord's clear judgment, I ask for your generous help. Please handle these matters." Hearing her say that, he couldn't help but be surprised and remarked, "You're quite sensible. From now on, you manage this place. It's best not to let anything happen. Don't trouble His Majesty the King, understand?" She replied, "Yes, I guarantee I won't trouble you or His Majesty. Please see yourself out." Finally saw the big shot off. Just then, someone suddenly called out, "Steward Jella, I'll be relying on everyone's care from now on. I want to bring this good news to Gullo. This castle has been cleaned up." Unexpectedly at this moment, the red-haired maid suddenly ran over and announced in a panic, "This is bad. Everyone get back to your rooms immediately. The little monster is having an episode." Hearing this, her face turned pale. She asked in a panic, "What's wrong with him?" "I'll go take a look," she replied, somewhat stunned. "Steward Jella, don't go, it's scary, that monster." Hearing that, she frowned and reminded her angrily, "Young Master Gullo is our master. All of you from now on must respect him." With that, she hurriedly ran straight to his room. Then she vowed to herself, "Don't be afraid. From now on, every time you face hardship, I will be by your side." After thinking, she quickly opened the door and called out loudly, "Gullo." Then she looked around, searching for him. She saw that his entire body was now completely enveloped by the curse. As soon as he saw her, he shouted in alarm, "Go away. I'll lose control and hurt you." Looking at Gullo, Jella couldn't help but be stunned and wonder, is this the curse? He quickly covered his face with his hands and demanded loudly, "I told you to go away." Seeing this, Jella quickly reassured him, "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. I'm also afraid you'll hurt me." With that, Jayla slowly approached him. Hearing her say that, Gullo couldn't help but feel insecure and said chokingly, "You've seen it. If you're scared, then go. Don't come here anymore." Seeing him using a broken piece of pottery to harm himself, she quickly reached out and snatched it away. Then she quickly pulled him into her arms and gently reassured him, "Don't be afraid. I'm with you. It's okay now. It's okay." So hot. Hearing that, Jayla quickly touched his forehead and thought in a panic, "I think the book said that when he has an episode, he'll get a fever and become exhausted." Seeing that Gullo seemed to have fainted made her worry, and she quickly shouted to stop him, "Humph, don't faint. I'll go get water to wipe you down. They'll make you feel better." Hearing her say that, he opened his eyes slightly and pleaded weakly, "Don't go, don't leave me." A moment later, while helping him change the cloth, Jayla hummed a little tune. Not long after, Gullo slowly opened his eyes and mumbled to himself, "What is this?" Then he sat up, looked at Jayla, and thought with some surprise, "Did she take care of me all night? No one has ever treated me like this before." Just then, Jayla suddenly woke up, looked at him happily, and asked, "You're awake? The fever's gone. Your body is so weak. I think you should exercise more, go for more walks outside. How about we go sit in the garden for a while today?" Sorry, I forgot you don't like the sun. He suddenly spoke up to confirm, that's fine. Jayla heard this and couldn't help but ask in astonishment, you agree? He nodded slightly and replied, yeah, I'll listen to you. Hearing him say that, Jayla quickly took his hand and suggested with a smile, then let's go now. The sunlight is very good. It can supplement calcium. While she was walking around with him, the blonde maid suddenly called out in a panic. Miss Jayla. She heard this and turned her head to instruct. Yes, go on with your work. I'm taking young Master Golo for a walk. The three maids heard her say this and immediately stepped back, replying in unison, yes. Wait, you all come back. What are you trembling for? Am I going to eat you? Why didn't you greet young Master Golo? Remember, we work for the young master, so we must respect and be loyal to him. Do you hear me clearly? The three of them replied in unison, yes, greetings, young Master Golo. Jayla heard this, then turned to look at him and said with a gentle smile, I've dismissed all the old servants. From now on, I will absolutely not let you suffer any more grievances. He smiled faintly in reply, I trust you. Seeing this, Jayla couldn't help but feel elated and exclaimed, you smiled. That's more like it. Children should smile more. A moment later, in the castle's garden, while watching Gullo draw, Jayla leaned over and said speculatively, this is you, this is me. Who is this? He replied, Uncle Pello. She asked in surprise, Pello, is that the family vassal? He replied with some sadness, I haven't seen him in a long time. Just then, the blonde-haired guard suddenly entered and reported, My lord, Lord Pello has returned. He smiled happily and asked, where is he? He replied, in the royal palace. The lord has won the battle and is waiting for his majesty, the king's reward. He sent a message saying he will come as soon as the banquet is over. Seeing that he seemed very disappointed at not being able to see his Uncle Pello, she quickly bent down, patted his head, and gently reassured him, it's okay, he has to see his majesty first. He'll be here very soon. How about you have dinner first? After you eat, you can wait again. Gullo lowered his head sadly and replied, I'll wait for him. Just then, someone suddenly announced, Lord Pello has arrived. Immediately after, the door swung open. Seeing this, Gullo hurriedly ran over and called out with a bright smile, Uncle. He smiled and asked, Young master, guess what I brought for you? Jayla saw him and couldn't help but think in astonishment. This is the legendary Valiant General, the most elite shadow guard of the Gullo clan. Then she unconsciously recalled a part of the novel's plot. As soon as he heard the bad news, he hurriedly galloped back on his horse. Then he threw open the door and shouted in pain, Ah, Duke, madam, your majesty, who was in the end? He replied indifferently. The Duke and his wife were, it was the enemy nation. After hearing this, Pello trembled with rage and said, Such methods, I will definitely avenge the Duke. Hearing this, he suggested with a sinister smile, This king will take care of the last bloodline of the Gullo clan. Hearing him say that, he felt relieved and entrusted. I entrust the young master to your majesty the king. I will immediately set off for the border. If I cannot avenge this blood feud, I swear I will not return. Not long after, while presenting a letter to Pello, the blue-haired guard announced with some hesitation, My lord, news has come from the capital. Lord Gullo, he has passed away. This is the last letter he left. He quickly opened the letter to read it and said, trembling with rage, so that's how it is. Unexpected. They really bullied him too much, and I even trusted him. Duke, I have failed you. I have let the young master suffer. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly pulled out a knife and stabbed him straight in the chest, taking him completely by surprise. Seeing this, he gave a wicked smile and explained, Humph, by order of his majesty, to eliminate the remnants of the Gullo clan. Returning to the present, while looking around, Pello commented frankly, Humph, the management is passable. The young master has not been wronged. Jayla couldn't help but feel a sense of pity. A loyal and skilled warrior like him died for an unknown reason. Kneeling down in front of Gullo, he smiled kindly and asked, I won the battle this time. Young master, guess what I want? I have exchanged my military merits for one of his majesty's treasures. This thing can make the young master suffer no more. Gullo asked blankly, suffer no more? Jayla heard this and was startled, thinking, suffer no more, doesn't that mean? The female lead in the original work, the woman Gullo loved but could not have, is Betty. Gullo's eyes welled up with tears as he asked, Really? Can I really suffer no more? Pello quickly hugged him and confirmed with a choked voice, Yes, my young master will very soon know. Longer be in pain. Jayla heard this and frowned sorrowfully, thinking, in the original work, it was her scolding and hatred that was the source of the deviation in Gullo's psyche. A moment later, Gullo was already sound asleep, in bed. Seeing this, Pello also quickly left the room. Just then, Jayla suddenly spoke up to stop him. "General Pello, please wait a moment." Hearing this, he quickly stopped and let out a sound of surprise. Huh? She couldn't help but ask in confusion, "Excuse me, the method that can make the young master suffer no more?" He suddenly frowned and asked in a gruff voice, "What do you mean?" She hastily explained, No, I have no ill intentions." He quickly turned away and reminded her coldly, "It's best that you don't. It's clear the young master trusts you very much. Fulfill your duties. Other matters are not for you to ask about." Then he resolutely walked away, ignoring Jayla's attempt to stop him. She lowered her head slightly and sighed, murmuring, "It's really not like that." The next morning, as they walked, Pello gently instructed, "In a moment, the young miss will meet an older brother. He's very easy to get along with." Then he thought, the Betty family special flute has a miraculous effect in soothing pain. I hope it will be useful for the young master. Betty immediately nodded and replied, "Understood." He smiled kindly and suggested, "Young miss, don't be afraid. Let me pick a flower for you." She smiled and replied. After picking the flower for her, he beamed and asked, "The young miss is a brave girl, isn't she? You must play happily with the older brother later." She smiled and answered, "Okay." Just as Jayla was about to follow, Pello spoke up at the right moment with an instruction, "Guard it carefully. Don't let anyone else enter." The brown-haired guard replied, "Yes, sir." As soon as he saw her approaching, he immediately raised his hand to stop her. "Please halt. The general has given orders that no one else is to enter." Hearing this, she quickly spoke up to defend herself. "I'm a steward of this castle, a servant by young Master Gullo's side." Pointing the tip of his sword directly at her, he warned in a loud voice, "No matter who you are, you cannot enter." Seeing this, she also quickly stepped back and bit her lip, thinking anxiously, "Gullo, you must hold on. Don't be seduced by her. It's because of her that you meet a tragic end." At the same time, in a certain room, Gullo was sitting on a chair, his head bowed in sadness. Then Pello entered and said with a beaming smile, "Young master, I brought a new friend for you." He quickly stood up and asked curiously, "Uncle Pello, have you seen Jayla?" Hearing this, he sat down opposite him, then ruffled his hair and said, "Young master, don't be impatient. Jayla is just outside. Yesterday you were so looking forward to meeting this new friend of yours. This is Lady Betty, the young lady of the Queen's family." The moment she saw him frown, she screamed in fear, "Uncle Pello, I'm scared." He broke into a sweat and said soothingly, "It's all right. The older brother is very easy to get along with. You're just not used to each other since you've only just met. Young master, she is the one who can help you suffer no more. All right, you children can play by yourselves now." With that, he quickly left and slammed the door shut. Glancing at Betty, Gullo couldn't help but think with suspicion. "Uncle Pello said she is willing to help me. People who are willing to help me must be kind, right? Just like Jayla." After thinking, he held out his hand and spoke gently, "Hello." But before he could finish his sentence, she bluntly slapped his hand away and ordered loudly, "Don't touch me. I am the young lady of the Betty family. My aunt is the queen. Is a monster like you worthy of touching me?" Suddenly pushed down by her, he was a little startled and cried out in pain. With a cry, rubbing her eyes with her hands, she cried and wailed, "If it weren't for my aunt's request, I absolutely would not have come here. You're a monster. You're an ugly monster." Sob, sob, sob. "I want to leave here. Let me out. I don't want to be friends with a monster. Sobi, sobi, sobi." This made Gullo extremely uncomfortable, and he frowned in anger, staring at her. Just then, Bello suddenly opened the door and entered, asking in astonishment, "Young master, Lady Betty, what are you doing?" She cried and ordered, "He's a monster. I don't want to play with him." As soon as she finished speaking, Jayla also ran in at the right moment and asked in a panic, "Gullo, are you okay? Are you hurt?" He replied, a little flustered, "Jayla, I'm fine. Now that you're here, it doesn't hurt." Seeing Gullo acting a little differently made him think in surprise. The young master didn't go berserk. The young master has really changed. So it was because of her. It was this maid who changed the young master. A moment later, kneeling before Gullo, Bello said goodbye in a low, reluctant voice. Young master, I must go, but I will continue to search for a way to relieve your pain. Hearing this, Gullo quickly urged, Uncle, please be safe. He suddenly called out. Miss Jayla, seeing him suddenly bow before her, made her say, flustered, General, sir. He continued, I misunderstood you before. I apologize. Jayla hurriedly waved her hands in reply. No, your caution was justified. Taking his hand, he said sincerely, my entire life has been one of loyalty to the Gullo family. I will not give up on finding a cure. Then he thought with some irritation, I thought Lady Betty's flute could relieve the young master's pain. Who knew she would treat the young master like that? Gullo suddenly turned and called out, Jayla. Then he reached out and gave her something. This made her ask in surprise, This is? Young master, this is the rose token. Bello saw his action and confirmed once more, Young master, have you decided? Gullo looked at him with a determined gaze and continued, I can judge for myself who is truly on my side. This time, Bello laughed heartily, praising his words. This is the spirit that the heir of the foremost great family should possess. He clapped Gullo on the shoulder, his praise not yet finished. Well done, young master. With that, Gullo bluntly handed the item to the maid. Take it. The token was quickly placed into her hand. Jayla, in a panic, wanted to refuse, but it was too late. Seeing their reactions, she said, This must be very important, right? It would be better for you to keep it. But before the young master could say anything, Bello gave a smile to ease her tension. Please take it, Lady Jayla. This token is not given away lightly. He introduced its significance. This is the keepsake of the Gullo family. There is only one. The Grand Duke of the Gullo family frowned, looking down from above. With just a small act of ingratiation, you think you can obtain the keepsake of my Gullo family. Humph. Bello spoke of its important origin. Many people have used all sorts of methods to try and obtain this token, but all have failed. Bello was also indignant about it, his hands clenched in anger. He is truly daydreaming. Your grace need not pay him any mind. He continued, telling Jayla, one keepsake representing the family with the strongest military power on the continent. Each generation's patriarch has only one, symbolizing a promise, a deep bond, never to be given away lightly. This is our family's loyalty to you. The Grand Duchess took the Grand Duke's hand and said with tears in her eyes, Rest assured, I will absolutely not fail the Gullo family. His Grace's peace was given to the current king after he was saved in a war. As Bello spoke, his eyes grew more teary. I never thought I would see the rose token again. He bowed respectfully. With this token, you will have a promise. If needed, the Gullo family will use all its power to help you. Iana looked at the jade pendant in her hand in amazement. This was never mentioned in the book. Even though the female lead constantly asked, Gullo never gave her such a promise. Doesn't this prove that you have the ability to see through people's hearts all along? It's just that before, you were too desperate to cling to any small bit of warmth. Jayla held out her hands towards him and knelt, asking softly, Have you really decided to give this to me? Gullo's eyes were full of trust. I trust you, and I trust myself. Hearing this, Jayla's eyes shone like stars with determination as she looked at them both. All right, then you and General Bello can rest assured. I will definitely do my best to take good care of young Master Gullo, so that he can grow up healthy and happy. Bello also nodded and began to bid them farewell. Young Master, I will definitely find a way to relieve your pain. Jayla placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Back in the bedroom, Jayla firmly pushed Gullo down at the desk, instructing, No, you must study, and you must study diligently. Before he could protest, Jayla also decisively issued a punishment. Today's cookie portion is cut in half. She had also thoughtfully hired a tutor to teach. From now on, I will be responsible for teaching the young master history. But Gullo insisted on having Jayla join him. I want you to study with me. Jayla asked in surprise. Me? The teacher quickly nodded in agreement. That's fine. As long as you remain quiet, it's all right. Jayla sat down quietly next to the young master, and with just a glance, she saw him nodding off to sleep. In class, the teacher couldn't help but sigh wearily. In the afternoon, the two of them were outside. Jayla stood below, trying to remind him, Be careful. He nodded in agreement. I know. You wait for me here. Jayla's eyes sparkled like stars as she stood in the billowing wind, looking towards Gullo with anticipation. Seeing her just standing there in a corner, he couldn't bear it and leaned out to instruct her. Sit down and wait for me. But Jayla refused firmly. There's no need. This is my job. He smiled dashingly and retorted, This is also my own private matter. Jayla looked towards Gullo with joy. He's changing more and more. He'll finally escape the ending in the book, won't Even at night, when it was time to sleep, he didn't want to be away from her for a second. Can't you sleep with me? Jayla shook her head. I can't do that. Gullo's eyes filled with tears as he looked at her, full of disappointment. She couldn't help but soften and agree. But I could tell you a story or sing for you. Gullo immediately nodded in agreement. Okay, I want to hear that lullaby. She began to sing the song. Sleep well, we will all get better and better. The hallway outside was bustling with footsteps. Jayla, the steward. She smiled and turned back to instruct the other maids. Yes, decorate that side with flowers too. Yes. Two maids murmured to each other. Today is the young master's 10th birthday. General Bello couldn't make it back, but he sent many gifts. The other replied, of course. Steward Jayla also prepared for a long time. Gullo, his eyes covered by her, waved his hands. What is it, Jayla? Then a decorated three-tiered cake appeared before his eyes. The maid placed the knife in his hand. Gullo reached out to take it. Thank you. Quick, make a wish. He closed his eyes and made a silent wish. Please, God, let Jayla stay with me forever. God, please let her be happy forever. Late into the night, Gullo was troubled by a nightmare, tossing and turning with a pained expression on his face. Jayla. She rubbed her eyes and pushed the door open, her voice sleepy. I think I heard you call me. Gullo. He sat up, clutching his head and crying out in pain. It hurts so much. Jayla, startled, became wide awake. Gullo, what's wrong? Jayla, it hurts so much. She rushed over. I'm here. Don't be afraid. She quickly touched his forehead and then cried out in alarm. Ah, so hot. Jayla quickly prepared a basin of water beside him. Wiping your face will make you feel more comfortable. Be good. He asked, crying. Jayla, am I going to die? Why does it hurt so much? Her eyes were already streaming with tears. How could that be? Don't say such things. You'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Heartbroken, she carried the basin of water away to hide her sorrow. I'll go get a fresh basin of water. But Gullo was desperate to keep her there. Don't go. Sing for me. Jayla turned back. Okay, I'll sing for you. She quickly went and hugged him tightly. Sleep well, my precious treasure. Night came, and Gullo still could not escape the pain, tossing and turning in bed. She glanced at the bright moon, her heart full of doubt. Is his fate destined to be so full of hardship? Please, don't let him suffer anymore. I just want him to get well. I know that for everything in existence, there are gains and losses. Gullo suddenly coughed a few times. Jayla turned around worriedly. Gullo, what should I do? She could only clasp her hands and pray. For this, I'm willing to lose everything when I am at my happiest, just to let him get well. Please help us. Jayla knelt under the bright moonlight, still praying. I am truly willing. I am willing to use my happiness to help him. Get well and suffer no more. Jayla worriedly approached to check on him. Are you feeling any better, Gullo? A few marks were still faintly visible on his face, not yet gone. She sighed, somewhat satisfied. Phew, are you asleep? Jayla pulled the blanket up, murmuring soothingly. Go to sleep. I hope you can always sleep well from now on. Outside, the trees began to sway violently. Jayla, inside the room, felt it too. Ah, the wind is picking up. Don't let him catch a cold. She was about to slowly get off the bed when she was held back by Gullo's arm. A weak arm held Jayla back. He really is a child who lacks a sense of security. Jayla had no choice but to place her hand on his shoulder and sit there all night. Rest assured, I will be by your side forever. She murmured to herself. Tonight was truly an unexpected stroke of luck. The moonlight heard my prayer. The light from outside cast the early morning sunbeams into the room, illuminating the large bed before her eyes. Jayla vaguely woke up when the sunlight shone on her face. It's finally morning. She glanced over at him and then suddenly cried out. This is... His clear, rosy face was visible before her. Jayla hurriedly shook the young master awake. Gullo, your face. Disregarding his peaceful sleep, she shook him with all her might. Wake up, quickly. Gullo frowned, still drowsy and unwilling to wake up. What is it, Jayla? Her face, full of emotion, was right in front of him. Hurry up and get up. Jayla excitedly told him. Gullo, the moonlight heard my prayer. I feel like our good days are about to begin. With that, Jayla pulled back his blanket. Gullo instinctively cried out and covered his face with his hands, not daring to look at himself in the mirror. What are you doing? She stubbornly pushed him in front of the mirror so he could see for himself. Look for yourself. Just look at your own face. At first, Gullo was still dazed, his trembling hands unwilling to move. The moment he lowered them partway, he was shocked and couldn't believe it. This, my face is healed. Gullo, astonished, touched his entire face to confirm. I'm really healed. Overjoyed, Gullo shouted, it's all gone. I'm healed. I won't have to suffer anymore. Jayla, behind him, also had tears in her eyes, wiping away her tears of happiness. Her hand were covered in scratches from the day before. Galoy immediately rushed over. Jayla, thank you. Thank you. She returned his hug and soothed him. What are you saying? It's all what I should do. I will be with you forever. Two maids were clearing dishes in the kitchen, turning to whisper to each other. It seems Steward Jayla has been very happy lately. The other girl happily added, yes, it must be that the young master's illness is improving. The maid Lillian seemed unhappy seeing the two in the distance, gossiping about things they shouldn't discuss. Just as she turned, she met Jayla, who was walking happily towards her, humming a little tune. Good morning, Steward Jayla. Looking at the downcast face, Jayla blurted out a compliment. You cleaned the floor very well. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving only Lillian standing behind, sighing softly. Taylor also came to help the young master get measured for a new suit of clothes. Please turn around, sir. Jayla. The moment he saw her, he dropped everything and ran to her side. Why are you getting more and more clingy? Be good and finish getting your measurements taken. Galoy at her side raised his hand to show off. Look, I've grown this much. Jayla nodded. It's true. You've had clothes made 3 times this month. Taylor also affirmed. Yes, the young master is indeed growing very quickly. Stewardess Jayla is taking very good care of the young master. She smiled charmingly. The young master is just having a growth spurt. You're too kind. When Taylor had left, she turned him around and praised him happily. You've really recovered. You're this tall already. Galoy, overjoyed, boasted, this is nothing. Bella said my father is very tall. I will also grow to be as tall and strong as my father. When that time comes, I will protect you. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Jayla went to where he was training. She mumbled as she watched her hair fly in the wind. The wind is picking up. He went out without even thinking to bring a jacket. She stood in the distance and shouted to him. Galoy. He was much taller than before. He rode on a horse, slowly trotting over. Why are you here? Jayla looked at him with concern and said, the wind is strong. I brought you a jacket. Hearing that, he quickly dismounted and hurried over. Okay, I'm coming right now. After taking just a few steps, Galoy was shocked to see the spooked horse charging towards her. He shouted in terror, Jayla, be careful. Galoy's face turned pale as he ran over. This horse has gone mad. Before she could even process what was happening, she saw the young master rush over and hug her tightly. Run, quickly. Galoy pulled her aside, but the horse was still charging madly towards them. Don't come over here. Jayla's eyes filled with tears as she cried, worried for him. No, a force flew out, rescuing them just in time. At the same time, the mad horse was also struck down. This is... Only then did Galoy let go of her and ask, Jayla, are you okay? Are you hurt? Jayla was speechless, looking at the young master with tears in her eyes. Just now, did you use magic? Now he could finally let out a sigh. Phew, thank goodness you're all right. What magic? He frantically checked his hand. Magic? Could it be my power has awakened? At that very moment, all around the castle, roses bloomed. The maids, startled, whispered to each other, wow, all the roses are in bloom. Awakened power. He clenched his fist and nodded. Yes, the talent passed down through generations of the Galoy family. The power of the rose. Night at the mansion. Meow meow. Lillian snuck out the main door. She stood talking furtively with a stranger. I heard the young master caused quite a stir today. I'm not sure. Lillian sighed. Only Steward Jayla can get close to the young master. She is extremely cautious. She held out a folded piece of paper, but I have investigated as that person ordered. The young master has indeed recovered. Galoy called, Jayla, but she was lost in thought and didn't hear him. It wasn't until Galoy raised his voice that she was startled back to reality. Ah, what is it? His gaze darkened with worry. What are you thinking about? Jayla quickly denied it. It's nothing. I was probably just frightened by what happened today. Galoy immediately blamed himself. Is it my strange power that scared you? Seeing him sad, Jayla quickly denied it again, affirming, how could that be? Your power is the most beautiful power I've ever seen, although I've never seen any other. Power. His eyes lit up when he heard her express her fondness for it. You like it? That's great. Galoy couldn't help but wave his hand and use his magic. Jayla turned away with a look of aversion, while he continued to present his elaborate display. Besides being super strong offensively, it's very beautiful. Don't. Galoy's mood sank again. Don't be afraid. I put it away. Jayla immediately came over, held his hand tightly, and spoke her mind. I'm not afraid of it, and I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of other people finding out. Really? She nodded in acknowledgement. That's right. How could anyone be afraid of such beautiful flowers? Jayla began to voice her thoughts. But this power is too special, isn't it? Let me ask you, at what age do powers normally awaken? Gulloy thought for a moment, then stammered out an answer. 16 years old. Jayla sighed. Right, you're only 10. It's truly unbelievable. Moreover, I suspect that the one who cursed you wasn't just from the enemy nation. So we must be very, very discreet. Gulloy now understood the situation. He nodded in agreement. Okay, rest assured. I will absolutely not use my power again. She sat beside him as he slept, her heart full of worry. My appearance has been like the flutter of a butterfly's wings, stirring up a hurricane. Not only did the curse disappear early, but Gulloy also awakened his power. But no matter what, I will protect you. The wind howled through the castle. A man was dozing on a throne. A creak came from the door. Liang entered with a letter. Your Majesty, a message from Sparrow. Although the news is the same every month, I still hold out hope. He smiled contentedly and lazily looked at the message. Yes, your Majesty is most meticulous. This time will surely. His eyes widened in astonishment. Insolent. How can this be? The Grand Chamberlain immediately knelt on the floor and begged. Ah, your Majesty, please calm your anger. Don't injure yourself. Rian shouted in fury. Why? Why is he completely healed? How could your work result in such a huge mistake? He picked up the paper from the floor, his hands trembling as he mumbled. Your Majesty, this subordinate does not know either. Liang began to shift the blame. It must be that the people over there were not diligent. Enough. Rian angrily waved his hand, not wanting to hear any more excuses. Enough. Their family's bloodline is powerful. It's normal that it couldn't be controlled for a time. He gave an order. Go and investigate. Find out if it has merely subsided or if it has disappeared completely. The Grand Chamberlain could only bow his head in obedience. Yes, this subordinate will investigate thoroughly. Rian also opened a box and took out a strange object. Take this with you. Go and test him. It's best that he hasn't recovered. Otherwise, Liang understood the meaning behind his unfinished sentence clearly. Your Majesty, rest assured. This subordinate knows what must be done and will certainly do it well. Watching his subordinate leave, Rian gave a sinister smile. Gulloy, it's not that I am cruel. It's that your power makes people wary. Meanwhile, Jayla was carrying food to the young master's room. Steward Jayla, let me help you. Lillian appeared, wanting to help, but she quickly refused. No need. She was still smiling. I know, the young master told you to eat with him, but I'm just helping you carry it over. I'll leave after I put the food down. You always take care of us, so I want to help you. Seeing Lillian's enthusiasm, Jayla also let down her guard. All right then, I'll trouble you. Lillian followed Jayla into the room, getting a closer look at the young master. Yeah, seeing a stranger, Gulloy immediately became wary. Jayla quickly noticed and explained. She's just helping with the dishes. I asked her to. Lillian, standing to the side, was already trembling. Please enjoy your meal. She slowly approached the dining table and set the food down. Thank you. As soon as Lillian stepped back, Jayla came over and playfully chided the young master. All right, look how you scared her. He smiled brightly and replied, I just felt that she was overly nervous. Is that so? She picked up a piece of food to put in his bowl and then offered a guess. Maybe she's just too scared of you. Maybe. Suddenly, his face turned pale after he took the first bite. This cough. Gulloy spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Jayla panicked and rushed over. Gulloy, what's wrong? That night, a tired Jayla opened the room door. Why are you here? Lillian shyly gave a flimsy excuse. I wanted to check on the young master and you. You haven't eaten all day. Jayla suddenly gave a rare smile. Luckily, the young master is fine. I'm going to eat now. Thank you for your hard work. Jayla even took the initiative to invite Lillian along. You haven't eaten either, right? Let's go together. Suddenly being pulled along, she awkwardly tried to refuse. No need, no need. At that moment, a stranger suddenly pushed the door open. The person's hand held a knife as they menacingly approached the bed, muttering two words, I'm sorry. Gulloy suddenly woke from his stupor. What are you doing? He let out a startled cry. Gulloy sat bolt upright and interrogated him. You're the culprit. Tell me who sent you, and I might spare you. Lillian, in a masked disguise, was flustered. If you must blame someone, blame your own bad luck. Don't resist uselessly. It will be less painful that way. Gulloy looked at the masked person and sneered. That year, I was a newborn baby. I'm not anymore. I will absolutely not let others slaughter me again. And Jayla had also suddenly appeared outside the door. Gulloy. Her eyes were full of indignation as she looked inside, her hand tightly gripping a sword. The masked person immediately fled through the window. Jayla quickly moved to stop him. I know what you want to say, and I know who that person in black is. Gulloy suddenly screamed in frustration. Who? Who wants to harm me? He cried and wailed at her. Jayla, look, I almost turned into a monster again. His trembling arm showed several strange, ancient poison marks. Gulloy's eyes filled with indignation. I want to tell Uncle King. I want to find Leon. They are too arrogant. Seeing him in this state, Jayla grew more alarmed. Gulloy, what's wrong? No, I have awakened my power. He was drowning in resentment. I can get revenge myself. Seeing the mass of rose power that filled the room returning, Jayla shouted, Gulloy, don't. Tell me, who is it? He shouted angrily in her face. I want to make them pay a heavy price. Jayla grew more and more worried. A thought flashed through her mind. Gulloy's emotions are unstable, and his rose power has just awakened. No, I can't say anything that will provoke him. The thorny rose vines wrapped around her arm, dripping blood. The more Jayla looked, the more she trembled. Calm down. You can't be like this. Finally, at her plea, Gulloy came to his senses. He hurriedly apologized. Jayla, I'm sorry. You're afraid of me, he said, seeing Jayla flinch away from him. Jayla quickly grabbed Gulloy's hand and whispered, I'm not afraid of you. I want to tell you, our wings are not yet strong, and there's still a spy in the house. She reached out, took the thorny rose vine, and gently placed it in his hand as a warning. With your newly awakened power, if it's exposed, what kind of end do you think we will face? Gulloy could only swallow his anger. His hands tightened around the thorny rose. I know, I'm just so full of hatred. Jayla also knew how to soothe the young master's mood, gently hugging him and comforting him. I know everything. We will take back what was lost, step by step. What was lost? After thinking for a moment, she also told Gulloy her suspicions. Moreover, I suspect your curse was not only caused by the enemy nation, but perhaps also by someone close to you. Hearing these suspicions, Gulloy was stunned. Therefore, Jayla advised him to be truly calm. We must investigate the situation first and take the initiative. Manager Jayla, the very next day, she gathered the maids back in the hallway. Jayla appeared downcast in front of everyone. You all must have heard that the young master has fallen ill again. Upon hearing these words, the maids turned to look at each other and whisper, how could that be? Jayla immediately silenced the noisy crowd. Quiet, it's all right now. But the young master still dislikes outsiders. Lillian, in the crowd, let out a soft sigh. So, the task of repainting this picture will be given to everyone to do together. Jayla also glanced aside to notice Miss Lillian sighing in relief. The maids looked up and once again chattered endlessly. It's so big. We'll have to climb a ladder and hold our hands up to paint for a very long time. Jayla showed her annoyance and shouted, That's enough. Work hard. Tonight, I will give everyone a late-night snack. Everyone obediently complied. Yes, manager. Everyone quickly divided the work among themselves. Hurry and get the ladder and the paint. Lillian quickly left the crowd with disdain. Suddenly, she bumped into the person in front of her. It's Jayla. What's wrong? She smiled insidiously. Are you slacking off? Lillian denied it outright, stammering in response, No, I'm not. Don't be afraid. Her expression changed as she approached. Why are you breaking out in a cold sweat? It's not a big deal. Finally done. So tiring. A man suddenly appeared bringing things and treating the maids. This is the late-night snack that Manager Jayla instructed to be brought to everyone. All the maids cheered with excitement. Wow, this is fruit wine, butter cookies. Let's eat. Manager, thank you. Everyone gathered around Jayla, praising her endlessly. Manager. Suddenly, Jayla frowned and announced some shocking news. Wait a moment, I've lost my jewelry. The pearl necklace I wore yesterday is missing. It was a gift from the young master. I suspect someone has stolen it. Jayla's face looked full of suspicion as she looked at everyone around. Yesterday, I couldn't find it anywhere. Lillian, standing in the crowd, suddenly trembled like a leaf. Last night, everyone pointed at Lillian. Last night she wasn't present. Yes, she snuck out and came back very late. Lillian trembled with fear, not knowing what to do. It wasn't me, I didn't steal it. Two maids also exposed the truth. Then who else could it be? Today you were slacking off too. Where did you sneak off to? Wasn't it to hide the stolen item? Lillian was on the verge of tears. I really didn't steal it. All right, Jayla shouted. This matter is still under investigation. No one is to discuss it further. You come with me. Reaching the door, Jayla became stern. So you didn't steal it? Then why are you trembling? Lillian was caught, a chill running down her spine. Young master, she is here. Inside the room, Gulloy glanced out with an indifferent expression. Lillian, terrified before these two people, began to defend herself. Young master, I wouldn't dare. I did not steal Manager Jayla's jewelry. Of course you didn't steal it. Jayla now took out the necklace. Because it's right here. Lillian began to tremble more, backing away. It was you. You framed me. Enough. Guloy slammed his hand on the table in anger. You really don't know why we brought you here. She trembled and backed away, doubtfully. No, I don't know. You've got the wrong person. Guloy scoffed. Jayla immediately ran over and pushed Lillian down. Why did they choose a good-for-nothing like you? She raised her eyes and commanded, I'll give you two choices. Tell us everything and we'll spare you or else. She was still trembling, not daring to look up, and kept denying, I don't know. You've got the wrong person. Hey, I'm not finished. Jayla sat down in front of her. Your father is old, and your mother is gravely ill. If you don't speak, you'll be kicked out for theft. You understand? Someone dismissed by the count will not be hired by anyone else. Lillian sobbed and begged, please don't kick me out, don't threaten my parents. She bowed her head low, begging. Guloy remained firm. If you speak, I will guarantee on the name of the Guloy family that your family will not be implicated. Only then did Lillian look up. Really? Okay, I'll talk. I'm only responsible for relaying information. The person on the other end who contacts me is Taylor. Guloy, of course, didn't believe her. He shot up in anger. You're lying. Who told you to frame a servant of the Guloy family? Lillian tried her best to explain. I'm not lying. It's really him. I've met him many times. I wouldn't mistake him. Zella, beside him, gently comforted. Don't get agitated. Let me ask. Turning to look at the girl kneeling on the floor, Zella frowned sharply. Think carefully before you answer. Is it really Mr. Taylor? Lillian nodded firmly. Although I don't know whose orders he follows, I am certain it is him. I swear on my family. Guloy finally stopped that vicious oath. Enough. But he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Why him? He's the servant my father left for me. Zella gently comforted and made a suggestion. Betrayal needs a reason. If we catch him and ask, we'll know immediately. Guloy also reached out and took her hand. Right, I want to ask him myself. Finally, she called Lillian closer. Come here. The chance to prove you're not lying has. Cool me. The next day, a plan was made. Guloy watched from above. Zella, dressed in black, peeked outside. Everything is certain. She nodded firmly. Yes, he is always the one who contacts me. Once every 3 days. Today is the day we meet. After saying that, Zella found a corner to hide. Before leaving, she reminded, you remember what I taught you yesterday? Right, don't get exposed. Lillian nodded slightly. I remember everything. The scene suddenly became unusually tense. Meow, meow. Lillian, trembling with fear, made a few sounds like a special signal. The man knocked a few times in response. How'd it go? From above, Guloy peeked out, full of anger. It really is him. Lillian tried her best to remain calm and recounted everything. I did as you instructed and put the guiding medicine in the food. He vomited blood. He asked further, so what about casting the curse? Was it successful? Lillian trembled and glanced back. He was in a lot of pain then. He didn't come out all day yesterday. It must have been successful. Taylor whistled, calling a pigeon over. Well done. There'll be a reward. Then he tied a letter to its leg. Lillian didn't care about that. She was agitated. I don't need a reward. Where are my parents? Are they still well? The door slowly closed. You do your job well, and they will be safe. She had no choice but to sadly agree. All right. Mr. Taylor took out a bag. Take this and buy some things to live well. Thank you. Lillian slowly reached out her hand to take the bag of money. Seizing the opportunity, Lillian grabbed Taylor's arm and shouted, Quick, seize him. He shouted in anger, You betrayed me. You were the one who harmed people first. Taylor didn't hesitate to pick up a rock and swing it down. Zella immediately shouted for him, Guloy, young master. At this moment, he turned back, full of surprise and horror. His eyes were bloodshot with anger. Rose, obey my command. Rose Vines immediately bound him tightly. Guloy muttered, I haven't mastered the force yet. Blood flowed, staining a corner of the floor red. He frowned, looking at the person on the floor with disgust. I really didn't expect it to be you. Rose, unexpected. He clutched his chest and hissed in pain. I can still see this ability. He pulled a man up. Guloy questioned, I also didn't expect that the family would produce a traitor like you. His eyes full of anger, he said bluntly, the Guloy family has long since declined. He angrily began to control his awakened ability. You really are crazy, truly unrepentant in the face of death. Then let me deal with you. Zella suddenly appeared, intervening to ask him, wait a moment, I don't believe it. She questioned Taylor. I don't believe that a person who gently measured Guloy's height and meticulously remembered his clothing habits could become so vicious and cold-blooded for no reason. His face contorted in anger. Because I hate him. He recounted. Get out now. If you can't pay the rent, don't say anything. Taylor begged. Please give us a little more time. The woman stopped him. Don't knock anymore. Let's find another room. The three of them went back into the smaller room. Cough, it's too small. The landlord scolded them with disgust. Do you still think you're Taylor, a subordinate of the Goloy family? They're all dead, and they don't care about you people. His heart was heavy since the master died. The days have become more difficult. When the wall is falling, everyone gives it a push. I was shunned by my colleagues to the point where I couldn't even afford life-saving medicine. Even his child was shunned, not going to school anymore. Didn't your son always think he was so noble? Get lost. They didn't even spare my son. So what about you? Taylor was full of resentment as he recalled that dark past. Did they ever think about the servants who were once loyal? He cried out in pain. Seeing him I softened, but thinking of my family's death, I hate you. After saying that, Mr. Taylor looked up bitterly. Just kill me. That way, I can suffer a little less. His face darkened as he asked back, do you know about this? Before I could find the former servants of, Goloy held out his cursed arm. It makes my life a living hell, like a monster. Impossible, he shouted in disbelief. He clearly said this was just to control you from going berserk. He clearly said you were born with a monstrous disease. Goloy desperately wanted to know who was behind it, shouting repeatedly, who is it? Who harmed me? Taylor had a pair of scissors ready. Don't. He growled out the last words. You can't know, and I don't want to betray a second time. At this moment, Zella also panicked and shouted, Mr. Taylor. Goloy's face also darkened as he looked at him and yelled, don't. He slowly supported the old, injured body, calling out tremblingly, sir. After a long cough, Taylor smiled gently and said, this is great. I can be reunited with my family now. Next, he raised his hand with difficulty and said, young master. His arm suddenly fell before it could touch his face, along with the words, you must live well. Goloy said in fear, he's dead. Standing behind him, Zella also couldn't hold back her emotions and said, rest in peace. Looking at the scissors stuck in his chest, Goloy lost his composure and spoke. This was my father's servant. I didn't know they suffered so much. Zella hugged him tightly to comfort him. At that time, you couldn't even take care of yourself. Goloy couldn't bear it and sobbed, but they did nothing wrong. Just because they were people of the Goloy family, they were ostracized. To that extent, suddenly, there was a flapping sound outside. Hurry, that pigeon has returned. The two of them quickly looked out the window. Zella pointed at the approaching pigeon and said cheerfully, that's it, the pigeon Taylor released. As if understanding her words, the pigeon cooed twice. Coo coo. Zella said hurriedly, catch it, there's something on its leg. Goloy quickly used magic to catch the bird. Zella said in surprise, it's a piece of paper. After reading it, she spoke in confusion. It says in here, it's carrying something. Then she quickly squeezed the pigeon's belly gently. A pill quickly popped out. Zella was startled. It's identical to the previous one, the pill that harmed you. She frowned, her face darkening as she said, this is the symbol of an eagle. A drawing of an eagle spreading its wings to fly high into the sky appeared on the paper Taylor left behind. Seeing it, Goloy realized with fear the inheritance symbol of the royal guard, the royal family, King Uncle. Seeing him becoming more and more agitated, Zella quickly held his shoulders tightly, reassuring him, Goloy, listen, just because it's the inheritance symbol of the royal guard doesn't prove it's the king. Then she tried to remind him, right now, we can only hide, wait for the situation to change, okay? While his eyes were still filled with tears, his reason quickly agreed with her. Idea. Scene change. The next morning at the castle. A piercing scream echoed everywhere. Come and save him. All the servants quickly rushed inside, calling out worriedly, young master. A maid quickly discovered Taylor's body at the foot of the stairs and screamed, Mr. Taylor. Another person also said in shock, look, he was stabbed to death. At this moment, Zella, wearing a maid's uniform, spoke in a stern voice. Taylor fought with the villain and was ultimately harmed. The young master is not in danger. But because the culprit has fled, the castle will immediately be placed under martial law. No one is allowed to enter or leave. All the servants quickly knelt and replied, yes. As everyone was quickly leaving, Zella ordered Lillian, you stay, I still have something to entrust to you. After closing the door, Zella clapped her hands twice. From the side door, Lillian's parents quickly appeared. Her mother called out, choked with emotion, daughter. Lillian also called out emotionally, father, mother. Then she looked to the side and saw Goloy standing there. Lillian hurriedly knelt and bowed her head deeply, her eyes filled with tears. She said, trembling with fear, "Young master, manager, I will be loyal until death. I will never betray you." Zella quickly helped her up and comforted her. "All right, you had your own difficulties. From now on, you will all stay and work at the castle." Lillian's parents also quickly knelt down and said happily, "Thank you, young master. Thank you, manager." Gulloy just replied faintly, "If you want to thank someone, you should thank the person who took you in." The woman said emotionally, "Yes, Mr. Taylor even taught us how to sew clothes. We must thank him very much." Seeing her like this, Lillian quickly spoke up to remind her, "Mother." Suddenly, Gulloy interrupted, "From now on, you will sew clothes for me." Watching his departing back, Lillian and her mother quickly sighed in relief. She happily turned to Zella and said, "Manager, my name is Lillian. My inherited ability is the art of lightness." At the palace, when Lion opened the door and called respectfully, "Your Majesty." Inside, Rian was furious and shouted, "You tell me, why'd he find out?" Pulled in by magic, Lion's neck quickly fell into Rian's hand. He explained with difficulty breathing, "Your Majesty, that good-for-nothing is dead. No one expected it. Your Majesty, please calm your anger." Rian said contemptuously, "That child not only recovered, but also put us in a difficult situation." Lion tried to explain, "That Taylor fellow is dead. No need to be tense. We must think carefully about revealing ourselves, Your Highness." Rian threw him aside and said, "Right, then we can only find a scapegoat." Then he fell into thought, this matter. Lion, kneeling on the ground, spoke in fear, "Leave it." Now that he was alone, Rian's face darkened with annoyance as he growled, "Gulloy, your son is very lucky and also very smart, but he must be obedient. He must live as neither human nor demon. Only then can I control your family. Only then can I be at ease." As he said this, a demonic smile appeared on his face. At Gulloy's castle, a figure in black appeared, gradually infiltrating inside. At this time, Gulloy, still unaware, was saying uncomfortably, "Zala, I'm so scared." She quickly smiled gently to comfort him. "I know, the unknown always makes people afraid. I will be by your side. You can rest assured." Gulloy looked at her with the expectant eyes of a fawn. "You will always be by my side, right?" Zala affirmed, "Yes, forever." As she left, she said softly, "I truly hope you never have to face the darkness. Sweet dreams." As soon as she left, Gulloy's window suddenly opened. The black figure from before quickly appeared and spoke. "Such a small child. Can't even do anything. Then let me handle it myself." Turning his back to the window, Gulloy said coldly, "You're here." The black figure asked with amusement, "You're awake." As expected, very smart. Gulloy frowned, sat up, and looked at the intruder in his room, asking, "Who are you?" The other paid no mind to his question, just smiled insidiously and said, "The bloodline of the Gulloy family is indeed different. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance to know." With that, he quickly lunged forward. Gulloy quickly blocked him. He said loudly in disbelief, "How is your strength so great?" Gulloy calmly asked again, "Who are you?" Seeing that he couldn't gain an advantage, he quickly tried to escape. Lillian suddenly appeared, blocking the window, and said with a smile, "You can't run." He was startled and cursed, "Damn it." Gulloy quickly moved behind him and snatched his hood. The intruder shouted in fear, "No." When Gulloy saw his face clearly, he spoke in disbelief, "It's you." While Gulloy was stunned, he quickly broke free from his grasp. Seeing him reach the window, Gulloy called, "Love." He turned back in surprise. "You know me." Gulloy replied, "I more than know you." Taking advantage of his surprise and lowered guard, a hand grabbed his shoulder. Lillian took him down in an instant. She happily looked towards Gulloy and said, "Young master, manager, I've caught him." Zala, holding a rope, said loudly, "What are you carrying him over there for? Quick, tie him up." The man named Love caressed a rose petal, muttering, "I'm seeing it again." Lillian leaned close to Zala's ear and asked, "Is this assassin an idiot?" She didn't answer Lillian but was lost in thought. It seems they know each other, but this person isn't in the original story. Gulloy retracted his magic. Then he spoke, "I've seen your picture countless times." The man named Love asked, "It was Pello, right?" He must have said I'm a traitor, guilty of heinous crimes. Gulloy cut him off. He said you were his good friend. After saying that, he turned and gave an order, "Contact General Pello. The person he's been looking for has been found." Love shook his head as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "How could it be? How could it be?" Gulloy, with his back to him, continued, "He once said about this matter he wants to ask you himself." In another place, there was an urgent call. "General, an urgent report from the capital. Quick, bring it here." He presented the rose token and a letter. and said, "Something must have happened to the young master." As soon as he finished reading the letter, Pello trembled uncontrollably, summoned the divine guard. "I must return to the capital immediately." Back with Galoy, he had now imprisoned Love in the dungeon. Lillian was on guard. When she saw Zala, she was surprised. "Manager," she reported the situation. This person was very tense at first. Since coming here, he hasn't said a word. Hearing this, Zala said, "This person is very unusual. We should still." Suddenly a voice cut her off. "Where's the person?" The two of them were startled and looked back. It turned out to be Pello and Galoy. As soon as he saw Love, Pello quickly ran over. He angrily grabbed Love's shirt and yelled, "I really didn't expect, after searching for you for 10 years, you were in the royal palace all along." Love looked at him and greeted, "Long time no see, Pello. I don't have time for nonsense with you." Pello took out a token and asked, "This, your personal token, do you still recognize it? I was wondering why I couldn't find it. So it was with you." Pello lost his patience and yelled, "I'm asking you why? Why did your personal token appear next to the close guard who was drugged that day? Why did only you and your squad disappear?" Love didn't answer, just sighed. Pello angrily punched the wall. "Speak, tell me the reason. We are still brothers." Love laughed mockingly. "Ha ha ha, brothers, someone who is forever a defeated general, your subordinate?" Love recalled, "Not convinced? Just based on you guys, our Lord Pello is the top general." "Ha ha ha." The purple-haired man continued, "Your leader is nothing but a pretty boy who only knows how to play with words. With our lord here, he will forever be a defeated general." Just as Pello and Love walked in, Pello spoke up. "What were you saying?" causing the purple-haired man's face to turn pale. Pello put his arm around Love's shoulder and declared loudly, "Listen up, this is my best brother. I will not allow anyone to slander him." Hearing this, Love smiled faintly. Returning to the present, Love shouted angrily, "If we are brothers, why are you always better than me? If we are brothers, why didn't you kill the one who looked down on me?" Pello was surprised. "I thought you." Love didn't let him finish. He struggled, making the chains rattle. "Because you simply don't care. You people with unparalleled talent, you don't care at all about the pain of others." Next, Love turned to Galoy and said, "And you, your bloodline is too powerful. The heavens must be fair. The Galoy family must be destroyed." With that, Love smiled triumphantly. "Unexpected, isn't it? A good-for-nothing like me could accomplish such a great feat, huh?" "Ha ha." Pello didn't let him be triumphant for long. He stabbed him with his sword, sending him to a faraway place. "You really are crazy. I once said if it really was you, I would end you with my own hands." Pello turned back and said to Zala, as agreed, "His body could be paraded through the streets. Afterwards, I must take him away," she replied. "Right." At this time, inside the royal palace, Lion was reporting the situation to Rian. "The Galoy family has announced the culprit and is parading Love's corpse through the streets. Now, all the common people know." Rian just snorted. Lion stammered on, They know that young Master Galoy was not born a monster, but was framed." Rian angrily crushed the pigeon in his hand. Then he grabbed the pigeon's wing, lifted it up to inspect it, and said, "Love thought that if he just obediently went to his death, is that I would spare his personal guards. Unfortunately, he was my trump card." At this point, Rian threw the pigeon in his hand at Lion. Lion asked again, "So Love's personal guards?" Rian gave the order, "Kill them." Lion received the order and retreated, replying, "Yes." Only Rian was left. He muttered, "Love, oh Love, I remember in the beginning, I truly felt that you and I were kindred spirits." Rian recalled the past, when Pello and Love were sword fighting. Hey, not bad. You've improved." Pello asked with a smile, "Are you impressed? Do you admit defeat?" Love, panting, replied, "Not impressed." They continued to fight. Pello defeated Love in a single move. Lorde, iormaiche, bilo. While everyone was cheering for Pello, Love left dejectedly. And it was at this moment that Rian approached him. "General Love, stop." Love was surprised. "Your Majesty," Rian placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Well done." He retorted, "No, the glory should belong to the victor." Love frowned and said, "I'm telling the truth. It's still better to follow General Pello. What warrior doesn't respect the strong?" Rian brainwashed Love. "That's not it. I'm not as good as your duke, but didn't I still become the king of country? You have your own world. Really? Think about it a little. If you have any problems, you can come to me. After all, geniuses will not understand the pain of those who strive like us. Returning to the present, Rian twirled the ring on his finger, muttering, "This world shouldn't have geniuses who cause so much suffering to others." The scene shifts back to the Gulloy mansion. Zala spoke up and asked, "General Pello has already returned." Gulloy smiled and said, "Now that the culprit has been caught, I'm relieved. This time, Lillian did very well." She quickly replied, "Not at all. It's just a small ability, but I'm very curious what the manager's ability is." Gulloy was also curious. "That's right, you haven't shown it yet." "Zala, where are you from? What is your ability?" Lillian agreed wholeheartedly. That's right. The manager is so beautiful. Her ability must be strong too, right?" The more she spoke, the more excited she became. On our continent, the stronger the bloodline, the stronger the ability, the more beautiful the person. Ordinary people like me just hoe the earth, plant vegetables. For someone like me to have the art of lightness is already very lucky. Lillian cupped her cheeks and continued dreamily. "Not to mention the young master, so strong and so handsome. I never dreamed I could meet the #1 talent of the Rose Continent." Seeing that she showed no signs of stopping, Jayla quickly and shyly interrupted, "Hey, my ability is not outstanding." Lillian cried out in disbelief and asked again, Really, that can't be right." Jayla quickly gave a forced smile, nodded, and replied, "Yes." While Lillian was still in disbelief, Gulloy spoke up from behind, interrupting, "That's enough. There have been bloodlines that were no longer strong after several generations. Lillian, please make me a cup of coffee." Lillian, confused, quickly turned away. "Is that so?" After she left, Gulloy calmly stood up. He looked worriedly at Jayla and spoke. "Is there something you find hard to say? We said we would never be separated, whether you have an ability or not. What ability you have, it doesn't matter." Seeing him hold out his hand, Jayla also quickly held his hand to comfort him. "Don't talk nonsense. There's nothing hard to say. I really don't have an ability." Gulloy also asked back naively in disbelief, "Are there still families like this on the continent with no ability?" Then he turned his back to look for a book on the shelf. "I often read geography. I've never seen such a place." Seeing him take out a geography book, Jayla just gave a forced smile, her eyes full of nostalgia as she spoke. "On my homeland, it's a very, very distant place." Gulloy asked curiously, "Very far across the ocean?" Jayla shook her head and said, "Even farther, beyond the sea, there is more sea. Beyond the mountains, there are more mountains." Hearing her description, Gulloy worriedly grabbed her skirt and said, "That far? Do you know how to leave?" Seeing his expression, she quickly comforted him. "Don't be tense." She smiled brightly, patting his head, and continued, "I promised you I won't leave you." At this time in the palace, after Lion placed the teapot on the table and was about to leave quickly, suddenly Rian called, "Lion." He forced a smile and turned back to reply, "Your Majesty, what are your orders?" Rian calmly put down his pen and lowered his voice. "Voice, you say, we put in so much effort, yet it ended up breaking his curse." At this, he turned coldly to look at Lion, who was trembling timidly before him. Lion quickly knelt in fear and replied, "Yes, it was your subordinate's failure. Please, Your Majesty, calm your anger." Seeing him like that, Rian let out a laugh, calmly stood up, and continued, "What are you afraid of?" As he spoke, he approached Lion. "I didn't say I wanted to punish you. I want to ask you something." Lion bowed his head deeply and said fearfully, "Your Majesty, please ask." Your subordinate will answer what he knows and dare not hide anything. Rian asked indifferently, "I remember Gullo has a new steward. You know her?" Lion quickly denied it. No. At that time, your subordinate only thought she was clever. Now, as he spoke, he bowed to show his loyalty. Suddenly, his face darkened. Ever since she became the steward, things have become more and more difficult. Rian turned and walked to a table with a brightly burning candle, saying softly, "Then that's truly suspicious. A suspicious person should be eliminated." At this, he gave a sinister smile, turned to look at Lion, and asked probingly, "What do you think?" Lion hastily replied, "Yes, your subordinate will definitely handle it well." The candle on the table was extinguished by Rian. He said grimly in a low voice, "Gullo, only an obedient child is loved by others. Let your uncle eliminate the villain by your side for you." The next morning at Gullo's castle, Zella saw Lillian opening the door to go out and asked, "Lillian, where are you going?" Lillian shyly scratched her nose and replied, "Steward, I want to go to the market to buy things." Zella asked, "Isn't this your father's job?" Lillian gave a strained smile and replied, "He sprained his back yesterday while moving things." Hearing this, Zella quickly tied her hair up high and said, "Then you can go by yourself, but I happen to want to buy some things too. I'll go with you." Lillian said, deeply moved. Steward. As the two were walking down the street, Lillian looked at everything around them and said excitedly, there's so much stuff. Zella also thought happily to herself, so this is the fair. It's as bustling as they say. Feeling she was being a bit too hyper, Lillian shyly scratched her head and said, Steward, you must think I'm making a big deal out of nothing, right? Zella quickly smiled reassuringly. No, I'm also very curious. It's my first time out as well. When they arrived in front of the Ton Tin vegetable shop, Lillian said cheerfully, we're here. This is the place my father told me about. Upon entering the shop, the owner quickly came out to ask, what can I get for you, ladies? Lillian quickly handed the owner a piece of paper with the shopping list on it, saying, this is the list. We are from the Gullo family, and this is our steward. The owner looked at the list and replied cheerfully, so you're from Lord Gullo's household. My old eyes didn't recognize you. I hope the stewardess won't blame me. I'll go get the vegetables right away. Then he hesitated a little and said, Miss, this is a bit less vegetables than you need. How about I bring more to you tonight to make up for the shortage? Hearing this, Zella felt a bit troubled and thought to herself, the entire family is under lockdown right now. Understanding her concern, the shop owner quickly continued, I know the Gullo family is under lockdown. I'll bring it to the gate, and you can have someone come out to get it. Zella sighed and replied, all right, that's the only way. Scene changed to nighttime. The vegetable shop owner arrived to deliver the goods and said cheerfully, Steward, your vegetables. Zella smiled brightly and replied, thank you for your trouble. The vegetable shop owner replied, it's my pleasure. You've been so good for my business. Then he suddenly grabbed her hand tightly. With a worried expression, he looked behind him and ordered, quick, take her away. Zella shouted in panic, Uncle, what are you doing? A moment later, someone discovered the deadly scene outside the gate and screamed, ah, death, someone's been killed. After being dragged a long way, Zella thought in fear, I'm tied up. I wonder how Gullo is. The man carrying her angrily squeezed her neck and threatened, behave yourself. Then he quickly threw her away, and the gag in her mouth flew out. Zella, in pain and trembling, asked, who are you people? Gullo, he? The kidnapper sneered, you're still in the mood to worry about him. Zella asked in disbelief, you people, are you targeting me? He quickly admitted, that's right. It's fine to let you know now. Suddenly, Zella looked behind him and shouted, Gullo. The kidnapper said contemptuously, him? You think we're afraid of a brat? Who are you trying to fool? Ignoring his words, Zella shouted with all her might, Gullo, run. You can't beat them. They came prepared. From behind, Gullo's face darkened with anger as he said, run? I want to kill them. My Chi team. Zella, terrified, pointed at Gullo and shouted, no. Gullo, you don't have the power. You have to go. The kidnapper quickly changed his target, turned to Gullo, and said coldly, the Lord was right, you really are an eyesore. Gullo angrily gave the command, I said I want to kill them. The kidnapper also ordered his men, the rest of you, stop him. I'll deal with her. Gullo immediately used magic. The kidnappers were bound by his magic and shouted in fear, this is bad. How is he so strong? The leader, furious, quickly swung his sword and rushed at Zella, shouting, go to hell. Gullo called out in fear, Zella. A member of a My Chi team rushed forward and easily blocked. The slash, sneering, tired of living? You don't know your own limits. Zella called out, trembling Gullo. Seeing her like that, he quickly ran to her and asked worriedly, Zella, are you all right? He held her tightly in his arms and gave a cold command, show no mercy. Finish them all. The kidnappers were quickly dealt with, leaving only the leader. He was seriously injured but still asked defiantly, who are you people? Ignoring him, the member of the My Chi team asked coldly, young master, is there anything you want to ask? The kidnapper said in disbelief, trembling, impossible. How can they be so strong? Gullo approached, and rose thorns quickly pierced the man. He asked angrily why? Why won't you people leave me alone? You won't even spare the people by my side. What on earth did I do wrong? The kidnapper backed away in terror. This is... Seeing the situation was not good, Zella quickly pulled him back. Don't. You can't expose yourself. Gullo nodded obediently. The member of the My Chi team quickly finished off the kidnapper. Gullo hugged her tightly and said in a serious voice, Zella, no one can take you away. Scene change. At Rian's palace, upon hearing the news, he roared in anger. What? They're all dead? What in the world happened? Lion, kneeling on the ground, trembled uncontrollably and replied, "Your subordinate also finds it hard to believe. How could this happen?" Rian, enraged, swept everything off the table and shouted, "A bunch of useless trash." Lion bowed even lower and replied, "All the men who were sent were killed with a single strike. Their bodies also had many wounds caused by curved blades. I beg your majesty to avenge the royal guards. They were all trained warriors. This time, send more. Your subordinate doesn't believe we can't kill her." As he spoke, he wept and made promises. Hearing this, Rian quickly realized something was wrong. "Wait, curved blades." Seeing the change in his expression, Lion quickly answered, "Yes, they were indeed curved blades, extremely sharp with double edges." Rian realized in disbelief that it was the Mai Chi team. Remembering his youth, Rian was surrounded by a group of men, his body covered in wounds. The men threatened, "Capture him today, and the leader will reward you with 10,000. Rian replied resolutely, "Even if I have to kill myself, I will not let you capture me." Suddenly, a voice called from above, Rian. He looked up joyfully and recognized Galoy. But seeing that only one person had come, he quickly sighed and continued, "It's just you. No, don't come over here." Galoy smiled brightly and replied, "How could that be?" Then he ordered the people behind him, "My Chi team, spare no one." The troops behind him replied loyally, "Yes, my lord." Galoy ran to Rian, supported him, and asked with concern, "Are you all right, sir?" Watching the pursuers who had just been chasing him fall one by one, he asked with difficulty, What is this?" Galoy calmly smiled and replied, "Oh, they're the shadow guards trained by my family. The Mai Chi team only acts in urgent situations." Returning to the present, Rian sighed and said, "Only the Mai Chi team could do it so silently and without a trace." Lion asked, confused, "The Mai Chi team?" Rian didn't want to explain and quickly waved his hand, saying, "Enough. Don't needlessly involve others. You are dismissed." Lion bowed and replied, "Yes." At that moment, in Zella's bedroom, Galoy had worriedly dozed off beside her bed. When he saw signs of her waking up, he quickly called, "Zella, Zella, you're awake." Seeing her slowly open her eyes, Galoy said joyfully, "This is great." Lillian, standing nearby, also said, "You scared us to death, Steward Zella. You had a high fever as soon as you returned and were unconscious for 2 days and 2 nights. Zella felt guilty and said, "I've made everyone worry." Lillian smiled and continued, "The young master was very worried." Suddenly remembering something, she hurried off, "The medicine is still brewing in the kitchen for you. I'll go check." When only the two of them were left in the room, Zella called out worriedly, "Galoy." He quickly understood what she meant and said, "Zella, now I understand why you didn't want to be careless anymore. It seems that besides love, it's not safe around me either." Zella was worried about something else. She slowly sat up, looked at him, and asked, "Galoy, the guards that day?" Galoy sighed and explained it was the Mai Chi team. As he spoke, he gently laid her back down. Zella asked again, "The Mai Chi team?" He replied, "Yes." Each head of the Galoy family has death warriors who are highly skilled in martial arts and absolutely loyal. I told Uncle Pello about my powers awakening, and he handed them over to me. It was very fortunate. Hearing that, Zella breathed a sigh of relief and said with a small smile, "Then I can rest assured. You'll be safer this way." Suddenly, Lillian burst in through the door and announced, "Lord Pello has sent an urgent letter." Seeing her like that, Zella gently reminded her, "Slow down." "What did General Pello say?" Holding the letter, Galoy frowned and replied, "He said there's something unusual in Love's body." Zella sat up abruptly and asked worriedly, "What's unusual?" Because she had been lying down for so long, her head immediately started to ache as she sat up. Galoy heard her, quickly turned around, and seeing her rubbing her temples, he quickly asked, with concern, "Zella, it's nothing important. You should focus on your health." At this moment, Lillian brought the twig that came with the letter and looked at it. After a moment, she vaguely recognized it. "This is lie grass." Galoy looked at her with a surprised frown and asked, "You know this grass?" Although she was uncertain at first, after checking it again, Lillian quickly confirmed, "That's right, it's lie grass." Then she quickly explained to the two of them, "This grass is unique to my hometown. I've seen it since I was a child. I couldn't be mistaken." Hearing this, Galoy asked, "So what does it do?" Lillian quickly replied, "It controls people's actions." Galoy quickly realized the abnormality and said, "Control?" So Love was being controlled. Uncle Pello said the same thing. He extracted some energy from Love's body and then found this in his coat lining. With that energy, it is a kind of substance. Hearing him say that, Lillian realized this was not a simple matter. She said, annoyed, how troublesome. Why does the culprit behind this always want to harm others like this? At this point, Guloy's face was dark with anger as he replied, because he has no humanity at all. Seeing him like this, Zella quickly took his hand and reminded him, as if seeing her thoughts, he calmly reassured her, I understand what you mean, Zella. I will act as if this never happened. He took her hand and continued in a firm tone, will grow stronger slowly and investigate slowly. Seeing that he understood her, Zella replied happily, okay. Watching her smile, Guloy thought to himself, for you, and also for myself. Scene change. Half a month later, in the mansion, Guloy was seriously directing the servants. In the darkness, Lillian approached him and whispered cheerfully, young master, everything is ready. Hearing this, Guloy gave a serious order. All right, let's begin. Lillian also reminded, don't make a sound. At this moment, when Zella returned, she said confused, why is no one here today? Why aren't the candles lit? As she stepped inside, she realized someone was next to her and quickly called out, Lillian. Then she was surprised to realize it was Guloy holding a cake, with a cheerful Lillian jumping up and down behind him. Guloy smiled brightly and said, happy birthday, Zella. Surrounded by the blessings of the other maids, Zella covered her mouth and stammered, thank you. A maid next to her said cheerfully, steward, make a wish quickly. Zella replied happily, okay. Then she quickly clasped her hands in front of her chest and seriously made a wish. Afterwards, everyone began to celebrate, drinking and dancing. Guloy and Zella quickly slipped away from the party to talk on the balcony. Guloy smiled, swirling the wine in his glass, and said, this is the first time I've organized something like this for someone else. I heard from Lillian that you once told her to do this. Zella smiled and replied, yes, in my hometown, this is how we celebrate birthdays. Thank you, Guloy. As she was looking at the stars, his eyes were also following her. Guloy replied unconsciously, don't mention it. Recalling the past, Zella said wistfully, my hometown. I really miss home. I miss my parents. Realizing the meaning behind her words, Guloy asked worriedly, Zella, do you want to leave? Hearing this, Zella replied sadly, leave? I won't leave. He quickly breathed a sigh of relief and replied, that's great. When she was alone, Zella shed sorrowful tears, looking at the moon in the sky, remembering her world, and choked out in a small voice, I can't go back either. I can't leave. Scene changed to the next morning. Lillian called out loudly to Zella, steward, wake up quickly. Because she had been drinking late last night, Zella woke up with a slight headache. She replied groggily, what is it? Come in. Hearing that, Lillian quickly rushed in from her seat and said urgently, Chief Steward Lion has arrived. He's looking for you. Zella, startled, asked in disbelief, looking for me? Then she hurriedly put on her shoes, muttering, drinking really does ruin things. I'm coming right away. She rushed downstairs to the hall. Seeing Lion, she bowed slightly and greeted him, Mr. Lion. Facing her, his face was dark as he snapped. Do you admit your mistake? Zella looked at him, confused, and asked, mistake? I don't know what the chief steward is talking about. Lion crossed his arms, approached her sternly, and said, tell me, regarding young Master Guloy, how long has it been since you last reported? With that, he had his men force her to kneel and confess. Hearing the commotion, Guloy also quickly came down from upstairs. Seeing this scene, he shouted angrily, stop. Zella looked up at him, startled. Gullus, young master. Lion was also startled and said, young master. Then he quickly regained his composure, approached him, and bowed. Greetings, young master. I am. Before he could finish, Guloy quickly cut him off, I know you. My uncle the king's steward. Lion smiled brightly and replied, that is I. Then he quickly turned to look at Zella, who was being forced to kneel, and said sinisterly, this servant has not been diligent in her care. I am punishing her. Guloy seriously objected, that's not necessary. As he spoke, he helped her up. She is very diligent. Please tell my uncle the king that I've been frightened a lot recently and haven't had a chance to report. From now on, I will personally write a letter each month to report that I am well. Hearing him say this, Lion dared not say anything more and just quickly smiled and replied, yes. He thought to himself, it seems the young master has recovered. Then he ordered the subordinate behind him, this is a reward from the king. He misses you very much. Seeing that you are well, I should take my leave. Holding the gift, Guloy replied coldly, thank his majesty. I won't see the chief steward out. Watching their figures depart, Gulloy quickly turned to Zella and asked worriedly, "Are you all right?" She smiled reassuringly. "I'm fine. Let's go back." Scene changed to 5 years later. In the mansion, everyone was busy cleaning. Zella smiled and reminded them, "Pick up the pace." Entering Gulloy's changing room, she helped him adjust his clothes while saying cheerfully, "You should quickly try on this year's birthday formal wear." Hearing her say that, Gulloy also smiled and said, "You've been busy for 2 months. That's enough." Zella quickly objected. "How can that be enough? This is so important." Then she pointed to the two of them in the mirror and said happily, "Look, we're the same height now." As she spoke, she used her hand to measure. Gulloy smiled gently and replied yes. Then he turned to look at her and said probingly in a low voice, "But you don't seem to have changed at all." Zella was also very surprised. She touched her own face and replied, "Is that so? I hadn't noticed." Gulloy looked at her and replied seriously, "Yes, you always look like this to me." Zella didn't pay it much mind, focusing on adjusting his outfit, and said, "Maybe it's because you see me too often." After a moment, she cheerfully patted his shoulder and said, "All right, this outfit fits perfectly. It makes you look very handsome." Hearing her praise, he blushed a little, turned back to look at himself in the mirror, and asked, "Is that so?" Zella explained, confused, "Yes, you were already handsome to begin with." Hearing that, he shyly scratched his head and said, "You're also very beautiful." Zella didn't hear clearly and asked again, "What did you say? I couldn't hear you. What's wrong?" To hide his shyness, Gulloy blushed, turned away, and coughed for a long time. Seeing this, Zella asked worriedly, "What's wrong with you?" He quickly reassured her, "It's nothing, just a slight cold." Hearing that, Zella was relieved and quickly let him out, reminding him in a loud voice, "Go get some rest and get well soon." After returning to the bedroom, Zella smiled gently and asked him, "Are you still feeling unwell? Drink the medicine and get some sleep. You'll be fine when you wake up." Gulloy nonchalantly placed the medicine bowl on the bedside table and replied, "Okay, in a little while." Seeing him like this, Zella quickly stopped him in a loud voice. "No, drink it right now. I'll watch you drink it." Watching him drink the entire bowl of medicine with a grimace, she sighed helplessly and continued, "You're still the same as when you were a child." After finishing the medicine, Gulloy couldn't help but stick out his tongue and complain, "So bitter." Picking up the empty bowl and turning to leave, Zella reminded him, "All right, I'm leaving now. You should get some sleep." Just as she turned her back, Gulloy quickly grabbed the hem of her skirt and said, "Zella, I want you to sleep with me." Zella, surprised, frowned and replied, "How can I do that?" Gulloy looked at her pitifully and said, "I'll be an adult in just a little while. After I inherit the title, I won't be a child anymore." Persuaded by him, she sighed, patted his head, and replied, "All right, I'll stay here. You can sleep peacefully." Seeing that she wasn't leaving, Gulloy smiled brightly and added, "I also want to hear you sing a lullaby." In the quiet night, her gentle lullaby echoed throughout the room. Sleep well now." A while later, when Zella had fallen asleep, Gulloy still couldn't close his eyes. He slowly sat up, looked at her, and whispered softly, "Zella, you lit." Moving closer to her, he frowned and continued, "You really haven't changed at all." Scene changed to the next morning. When a maid saw her approaching, she quickly bowed, "Steward Zella." She smiled gently and asked, Where is the young master?" At that moment, Lillian ran over cheerfully and announced, "General Bello has returned. He's sparring with the young master at the training grounds." Then she looked at Zella with expectant eyes and called, "Steward." Zella, understanding her completely, smiled brightly and asked, "You want to go watch, don't you? Go on." Lillian joyfully took her hand and said, "The steward is the best. Let's go." At that moment, outside on the training grounds, Bello was saying cheerfully in a loud voice, "Good. It seems the young master has improved." Again, hearing him say that, Gulloy quickly focused his magical power and rushed to attack. Outside, Lillian saw this and shouted, "Go, young master. Steward, you should cheer too." Hearing her, Zella replied, a little embarrassed, "I." Gulloy immediately recognized her voice and turned to look. He smiled confidently and provoked Bello. "Uncle Bello, are you ready to lose?" He was a little surprised, then laughed loudly and replied, "You're too arrogant." The two quickly lunged at each other. Lillian excitedly asked Zella, "Steward, who do you think will win?" "I think it's the young master." Zella smiled and replied, "I also think." Before she could finish her sentence, a strong gust of wind swept by. Lillian, unable to hear the answer, asked curiously, "What did you say?" Zella smiled brightly and replied, "It's Gulloy." On the other side, the fight showed no signs of stopping. The sound of punches and kicks echoed continuously. After a while, Bello's hearty laughter rang out. Good. Truly the number one genius of the continent. Although Gulloy had a wound on his face, he also smiled happily and replied, "You praise me too much, uncle." Seeing his modesty, Bello laughed even louder and continued, "Good, very good. The lord and lady can also rest assured. His Majesty the King wants to see you. You should prepare well. He and your father were very close." Gulloy replied obediently, "Yes." The next day, Gulloy and Zella arrived at the palace early. People quickly approached to greet them. A count hesitantly spoke up. "This is young Master Gulloy." Gulloy stepped closer and replied with a smile, "Hello." Another person said, confused, "This wasn't it said?" Gulloy calmly replied, "I was ill as a child, but I have recovered now. Moreover, my coming-of-age ceremony is approaching, and I will invite everyone to attend then." Hearing this, everyone quickly responded, "Oh, yes, yes, yes." One person couldn't help but step forward to greet him. "Young Master Gulloy is so handsome. My daughter is also—" Suddenly, Lion approached, bowed, and said, "Young Master, the king summons you." Gulloy calmly replied, "All right." Then he turned to the crowd, smiled politely, and said, "Please excuse my rudeness. I'll have to trouble the chief steward to lead the way." The crowd smiled and replied, "You should go ahead." Lion also quickly gestured and said, "You are too kind, sir. Please." As soon as he left and the door closed, the nobles quickly turned their attention to Zella standing behind. With eyes like they were looking at prey, they said hastily, "This is my family's token. We wish to form a lifelong alliance with the Gulloy family. Don't push, this is mine. I have two very beautiful daughters." Zella, a little terrified, gave a strained smile and replied, "One at a time, please." She thought to herself, "He's quite popular." Scene changed to nighttime. On the way back, Zella sighed wearily and said, "The royal palace is no joke. I'm dead tired." Gulloy, walking beside her, looked at her dotingly and asked, "Tired already?" Lillian appeared from nowhere, smiled brightly, and agreed, "That's right, that's right. It will be even more tiring on the young master's birthday." Zella lamented, "Spare me. I received so many tokens today." Looking at the box in her hands, she continued in disbelief. "Any more and my arm would have broken." Lillian asked, a little confused, "These things must all be for forming ties with our family, right? After all, we are the number one family." Ma. Hearing this, Zella massaged her shoulder tiredly and replied, "Yes, and some even want to propose marriage alliances." Lillian's eyes quickly lit up as she said, "That's right. At the party, the young master has to invite a young lady to dance like this." At this, Gulloy stepped in front of Zella, bowed with a smile, and said, "Miss Zella, may I ask, would you accept my invitation to be my dance partner?" Zella blushed and stammered. "I." Lillian, standing beside them, excitedly urged, "Say yes quickly." Gulloy also smiled at her and said, "Say yes quickly, Miss Zella, or I will lose a lot of face." Taking the flower he offered, Zella smiled gently and replied, "I don't know how to dance, you." Her hand was quickly grabbed and pulled along. She let out a startled cry. As soon as he caught her by the shoulders, Gulloy looked at her affectionately and said, "You'll learn with practice. What's so difficult about it?" He gently guided her body to the rhythm of the dance. "See, aren't you dancing very well?" Seeing their dance become more and more harmonious and beautiful, Lillian shouted encouragement from the side. "Beautiful." But Zella remained rational and said, This is too unreasonable. At your ball, you can't." Gulloy, disappointed, asked with difficulty, "Why not? What can I do?" She looked him straight in the eye and replied seriously, "You can't just invite a maid like this." Gulloy quickly objected, "But you are beautiful and kind. You completely deserve to be invited." Zella shook her head firmly and said, "It doesn't matter. You have to invite a..." Gulloy frowned in disbelief. "What?" Zella calmly explained. "A young lady that you like." She thought to herself, "In the book, you met and fell in love with the female lead, Betty, at the party." Gulloy disagreed with her opinion and quickly continued, "Then you tell me what is like." From behind, Lillian saw this and wondered, completely confused. Things were going so well. What happened? Zella just smiled, stepped back, and said, "Just follow your heart." Gulloy frowned, annoyed, and replied, "So I don't need you to tell me what to do, right? This was just a rehearsal." With that, he quickly turned his back and left. Zella called out unconsciously, Guloy. When he got to his study, Guloy, annoyed and with a headache, thought to himself, Zella isn't close to me anymore. Why am I so angry? Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. He quickly composed himself and said, "Come in." At that moment, Zella slowly entered with a bowl of sweet soup in her hands. She smiled and said, "I brought you some sweet soup for a late-night snack. I'm not disturbing you, am I?" Guloy was happy to see her and replied, "It's fine. I was about to rest anyway." Zella gently placed the bowl on the table and continued, "I talked too much during the day. You're not angry, are you?" Guloy quickly denied it. "Who's angry with you?" Zella smiled brightly and replied, "As long as you like it." Guloy looked at her, smiled gently, and said, "Yesterday at the royal palace, my uncle the king gave many rewards. I've chosen a lot of fabrics and jewels for you. I'll give them to you later." Zella smiled and replied, "You've already given me too many things. I can't use them all. You should look at this first." Guloy asked curiously, "What's so mysterious?" Zella thought to herself, "Of course it's something good, definitely something good. I'm showing you in advance so you'll know. Don't just stare at the female lead when the time comes." Seeing what she handed him, Guloy's face quickly darkened as he asked, "Where did you get this?" Zella, standing beside him, answered honestly, "That day at the royal palace, the lords gave them to me. I thought they weren't bad." Guloy slammed the table in anger and shouted, "Who told you to accept them?" Zella stammered awkwardly, Guloy didn't wait for her explanation and yelled, "My thoughts. Do you need to guess them? Making decisions on your own." Jayla frowned in disbelief and said, "If you don't like it, you don't like it. Why are you being so fierce? I don't care about you." With that, she quickly picked up the bowl of sweet soup and left. Guloy, knowing he had misspoken, quickly said, "Don't." But it was too late. She had already left swiftly. Scene change. After the recent meeting with Guloy in the palace, Liat quickly fell into deep thought. "So similar, he is truly so similar to you." When he entered and bowed, "Greetings, your majesty." The man was startled unconsciously. Liat thought to himself, "Too similar." Then he quickly spoke. Quick, stand up." "Good child, is your health better now?" Guloy calmly replied, "I have fully recovered. Thank you for your concern, your majesty." Rian smiled gently and said, "It's nothing. The close relationship between me and your father means it's all the right thing to do. Your coming-of-age ceremony is approaching. Have your powers still not shown any signs of awakening?" Feeling the pressure from the hand he placed on his shoulder, Guloy answered defensively, "Not yet." Rian sighed, as if to comfort him. "All right, you don't need to be anxious. Go back and rest well to prepare for the coming-of-age ceremony. It must be truly grand." Guloy obediently replied, "Yes." Not long after he left, Dels quickly entered. He bowed and paid his respects. "Father." Rian replied coolly, Stand up, your lessons." Dels hurriedly replied, "I have exceeded expectations. The teachers say I have a very good grasp of them." Rian said with satisfaction, That's quite good. For you to awaken your powers before coming of age makes you a rare genius in 100 years. So you must try even harder. This month, Guloy will come of age. You will attend in my place." Dels asked again in surprise, "Guloy?" At this time, at the Guloy mansion, Jayla reminded in a stern voice, "You must be careful." The servants quickly replied, "Yes, steward." At this moment, Lillian quietly approached Guloy and whispered, "Young master, are you and the steward not talking anymore?" He drank his tea and calmly replied, "I don't know, it's up to her." Seeing Jayla approach and sit in the chair opposite him, Lillian couldn't help but sigh and call out, "Steward." Jayla, not wanting to listen, immediately turned and left. Seeing her action, Guloy became extremely angry, stood up abruptly, and asked, "Jayla, I don't understand. Why are you in such a hurry to choose a young lady for me? Don't I have the right to like someone else? What if I don't like the young ladies, but I like you?" As he said that, his chest felt a sharp pain as if pierced by 1,000 needles. Hearing Guloy say this, Jayla frowned sadly and replied, "I'm sorry, I was rude. Your affairs, you should decide for yourself." Guloy, even more annoyed, called out loudly, "You." Jayla, as if not hearing, hurriedly returned to her room. Closing the door tightly, Lillian ran to the door and called out urgently, "Steward, are you all right?" By now, her tears were falling uncontrollably, but Jayla still answered resiliently, I'm fine, you can go." Although Lillian was worried, she could do nothing and replied sadly, "All right." After a while, it became quiet outside the door, and Jayla comforted herself. "It's okay, it's all okay. He just doesn't have a God's perspective. Besides, Betty is truly his one true love. How can I stop it?" At this point, she thought in despair, is it really completely unchangeable? If it can't be changed, what's the meaning of my existence? What's the meaning of my 10 years of effort? As she thought, she poured herself a glass of wine. The more she drank, the drunker she got. Jayla walked to the window, gazing at the moon in the sky, and thought to herself, I'm about to forget what my homeland looks like. At this moment, down in the mansion's courtyard, Guloy was standing below, looking up at her through the window worriedly. He called out softly, Jayla. Above, Jayla was sitting on the windowsill, humming a tune. Sleep well, sleep well. Suddenly, the wine glass slipped from her hand and fell. Jayla screamed in horror. Hey, my wine glass. Just then, she saw Guloy standing below and shouted even more worriedly. Be careful, get out of the way. Guloy gently reached out and caught the wine glass, sighing to himself. Why are you so careless? Jayla, having leaned out too far, also fell by inertia. She screamed in fear. Guloy also panicked and shouted loudly. Jayla. Guloy quickly stepped forward and caught her in his arms. Supporting her waist to stand straight, he asked seriously, How much did you drink? You're not clear-headed, you. Before he could finish his sentence, Jayla sobbed and called his name. Guloy, listen to me. Seeing her so urgent, he reassured her. Okay, I'm listening. Jayla grabbed his collar, pulled him closer, and said seriously, You can't like Betty. Seeing her like this, Guloy blushed and agreed. Okay, but who is Betty? Hearing him agree, Jayla smiled brightly and replied, Okay. Seeing her like this, he blushed and said dotingly, You can rest assured, I will absolutely not like anyone else. Scene changed to the next morning. As she stepped down the stairs, feeling a bit dizzy from the aftereffects of yesterday's drinking, Jayla staggered unsteadily and fell into Guloy's arms. Helping her stand straight, he reminded her, Be careful. If you're tired, go inside and rest for a while. Seeing this scene, Lillian happily approached and asked, Have you made up? That's wonderful, I was so worried. Jayla also replied in a low voice, I don't know either, I guess so. This is the royal standard. Seeing the horse-drawn carriage approach, Jayla exclaimed in amazement. Guloy reminded her in a low voice, Yes, come down a bit. Seeing that the person getting out of the carriage was Dels, Jayla was even more surprised, her voice a little loud. This is the prince. Guloy looked at her and said, If you speak any louder, you'll be heard. Then he stepped forward and calmly extended his hand in greeting. Hello, Prince Dels. Dels also smiled politely and replied, Guloy, long time no see. Seeing him, Lillian excitedly shook Jayla, who was standing next to her, and said, The prince is so handsome, and the young master is not much different from him. Jayla helplessly let her push her around and replied, All right, I know. Guloy smiled and gestured for Dels to enter, saying, Please come in. Suddenly, an announcement was heard from outside. Lady Betty has arrived. Hearing this name, everyone quickly became abuzz. Lady Betty, the #1 beauty of the empire, Lady Betty. From a newly arrived carriage, a girl with sweet pink hair and an incredibly exquisite face stepped out. She quickly approached to greet him. Young Master Guloy, long time no see. Guloy was also very surprised and called back. Betty, my lady, we've met before. Dels, who was beside him, also spoke up with great joy. Betty, we meet again. Hearing him say that, Betty sighed and thought to herself, So he has forgotten. Looking at him, she smiled and explained, You may have forgotten. We met when we were children. Seeing that she wasn't paying attention to him, Dels thought unhappily, Why does he always attract others' attention so easily? Remembering his childhood, Rian always beat and scolded him, saying, Why can't you learn? How can you compare to Guloy like this? Your innate talent is stronger than mine, but it's still not enough. You must surpass him. You must become the best in the empire. One day, he saw a lion leading a dirty boy into the palace and asked with great curiosity, Who are you? Lion carefully explained, Prince, this is the young master of the Guloy family. Dels looked at him curiously and asked, You are Guloy? Nothing special. Lift your head for me to see. Seeing no movement, he used his hand to lift Guloy's head, but unexpectedly Guloy reacted very strongly, slapping his hand away and shouting loudly, Don't touch me. Seeing the face full of strange drawings, Dels couldn't help but shout loudly, This a monster? Returning to the present, when Betty saw Guloy staring at her, she shyly covered her face and asked, Guloy, why are you looking at me? He quickly looked away and replied, It's nothing. Dels unhappily approached and said, Lady Betty, you've arrived at just the right time. We were just discussing. To everyone's confusion, Dels came closer, put his arm around Guloy's shoulder, and continued, A competition, just in time for Lady Betty to be the referee. Hearing this, Jayla, standing nearby, couldn't help but protest loudly. What? A competition? But Gulloy hasn't awakened yet. Clasping her hands together, Jayla bowed her head slightly and said respectfully, I beg for the prince's forgiveness. Lillian immediately bowed and added, I beg for your highness's forgiveness. Seeing this, Dells's face darkened, and he said, Since when can servants also speak to this prince? Betty quickly spoke up in his defense. Your highness has strong innate talent, while Gulloy has not yet awakened. I beg for your highness's forgiveness. After hearing this, he thought with extreme jealousy. Even you are helping him. Everyone is helping him. Then he frowned, snorted coldly, and asked, Could it be that the heir of the Gulloy family would hide behind a group of women? Gulloy calmly retorted, In my household, there are also many decisive and resourceful women. Your Highness the Prince should not look down on them. However, I still agree to compete with your Highness. Hearing that, he softened his tone a little and said, I won't take advantage of you. We will only compete in horse riding, swordsmanship, and other common skills. Moreover, I will not use my innate talent. After hearing this, Gulloy immediately bumped fists with Dells and said, As your highness wishes. As soon as he finished speaking, the soldiers standing nearby also quickly brought the swords. Seeing this, he sneered and suggested, Your highness, please choose first. Hearing that, Dells suddenly said with some disdain, Then I won't be polite. A little lighter, so I'll choose this sword. As soon as he heard him say that, Gulloy immediately extended his hand and said, Your Highness, please. He laughed arrogantly and continued, Then I won't be polite. As soon as the two of them stepped onto the field and prepared to compete, Jayla immediately cheered loudly. Young master, do your best. Seeing that Dells seemed to want a quick victory, made Lillian say worriedly, There's something about this prince. She quickly reminded her, Lillian, pay attention. Seeing him suddenly glance this way, Lillian quickly speculated. It seems the young master is looking at Lady Betty. Hearing that, Jayla couldn't help but say with a bit of disappointment, The young master has to invite a lady to dance anyway. It's the proper thing to do. After hearing this, Betty blushed shyly, tucked her hair, and said, Oh my, Gulloy's servants are so blunt. As soon as she finished speaking, he also successfully counterattacked at the right moment. Seeing this, Lillian cheered happily. He won, while she remarked with some surprise, No, not bad. Pointing the tip of his sword directly at Dells, Gulloy smiled triumphantly and said, Thank you for going easy on me, Your Highness. Betty quickly stepped forward and said, I declare Gulloy wins. After hearing this, Dells said with some dissatisfaction, It's still a bit early to declare. There's still the horse riding competition. He nodded slightly and confirmed with a faint smile. Your Highness is right, then please. A moment later, Dells suddenly sneered and suggested, Young Master Gulloy, you don't mind letting everyone watch, do you? Jayla frowned slightly and called, Gulloy, then couldn't help but think worriedly. Gulloy will be nervous. Facing so many people, knowing that she was very worried about him, he quickly turned his head to look at her, then smiled gently to reassure her and said, It's okay. Lillian suddenly said indignantly, His Highness the Prince called so many people, and horse riding is his specialty. Isn't he trying to embarrass the young master in front of everyone? Hearing that, she forced a smile and reminded her, Keep your voice down. It's enough that you know it in your heart. Hearing that, she scratched her head with her hand and explained with a laugh, Hee, I couldn't help it. At this moment, Betty suddenly announced loudly, Silence, I declare, the competition begins. The noble ladies standing nearby saw this and involuntarily whispered among themselves, That's Lady Betty. She's as beautiful as they say. I heard that His Highness the Prince and young Master Gulloy are competing for her. I'm so envious. That's His Highness the Prince and the heir of the #1 family. Jayla shouted worriedly in encouragement. Gulloy, do your best. Seeing Gulloy at a slight disadvantage against Dells, someone immediately commented, His Highness the Prince is physically strong. It seems young Master Gulloy has lost. Seeing this, her face turned pale and she wondered, Why is he? This is clearly cheating. Then she silently called his name in her heart. Gulloy. As soon as she saw that he could easily control the panicking horse, Jayla exclaimed with joy, Wow, that's great. Lillian cheered happily. Our young master is so amazing. Yeah, did you see that? Did you see that? Seeing that he could win in a very spectacular way made the audience exclaim in admiration and quickly applaud, saying, As expected of the heir of the #1 family. That's right, that's right. Betty hurried over and praised with a blush. Young Master Gulloy, you are very good. He replied indifferently, Lady Betty, you flatter me. Witnessing this scene, Delz's face darkened and he muttered resentfully, Gulloy. Then he pretended to be gracious and said, It seems the Gulloy family is truly outstanding. He replied nonchalantly, Thank you for the compliment, Your Highness. Delz suddenly suggested with a faint smile, Since you are so strong, why don't we have a close combat match? After hearing this, he replied with some surprise, Close combat? Prince Delz possesses the innate talent of physical beastification. He immediately spoke up to justify himself. I already said I wouldn't use my powers. I just want to experience the famous secret techniques of the Gulloy family. Don't you dare? Gulloy retorted coldly. If your highness is truly so insistent, then I will follow through to the end. A moment later, as soon as they saw the arena, the audience present exclaimed in amazement. Wow, so this is the arena of the Gulloy family, Delz said with delight. I finally get to see the Gulloy family's arena. As soon as he saw him step forward, Delz immediately asked, I heard that here one can freely use their fists and feet, with life and death not being a concern. Is that right? He coldly confirmed. Correct. Seeing Jayla suddenly call his name loudly. Gulloy. He quickly shook his head to indicate that. He was fine. Betty suddenly frowned with concern and said, But earlier it was said that the competition would not use powers and would only be to the point. He confirmed with a faint smile. Of course, I was just asking. Did I scare young Master Gulloy? He replied indifferently. Not at all, Your Highness, please. While attacking him, Delz said with a wicked smile, Then I won't be polite anymore. He quickly jumped up to dodge and said, As expected of His Highness the Prince, truly very strong. Delz quickly took the opportunity to punch him straight in the shoulder and continued, Young Master Gulloy is also very fast and agile. Seeing this, Lillian couldn't help but think in amazement. Just hearing the sound makes it seem painful. He suddenly laughed happily and said, Ha ha ha, it's been a long time since I've had so much fun. Gulloy immediately added, True, but it's time to end this. With that, he immediately clenched his fist. Then he forcefully punched Delz straight in the face, causing him to scream in pain. Oh no, it can't be. Seeing Delz about to launch a surprise attack, while he wasn't paying attention, Jayla quickly shouted a warning. This is beastification. Gulloy, be careful. Delz is using his powers. The blue-haired young man saw this and said in amazement, Why? Why a sneak attack? Gulloy quickly turned his head, his face darkening as he sneered. Noisy. While attacking him, Delz gritted his teeth and roared. Ah, shut up. All of you shut up, go to hell. I am the strongest. I want to tear you to pieces. He calmly frowned and rebuked. Madman, seeing Gulloy about to use his powers. Jayla's face suddenly turned pale as she thought in panic. He can't. Next, she hurriedly left the stands and shouted loudly, Gulloy. Then she rushed down to the competition field and quickly stood in front of him. At that exact moment, Delz also happened to strike, causing her to scream in pain. Seeing her about to fall, he also quickly caught her and asked worriedly, Jayla, are you all right? Betty quickly remarked, I think this servant is like. He immediately cut her off. No, she will be fine. Seeing him suddenly raise his voice at her, she broke into a sweat and explained flusteredly, I was just telling the truth. He worriedly held her hand for a moment. Then he quickly picked her up in his arms and said, It's just an injury. Lady Betty is being too extreme. I can't entertain you any longer. Please make yourselves at home. Delz hurriedly stood up to stop him. Hey, Gulloy. Then he suddenly fell to the ground with a thud, causing Betty to scream in panic. Hey, His Highness the Prince has fainted. As soon as she saw him approach, Lillian also quickly congratulated him. Young master, you won. Steward Jayla, is the steward all right? He coldly reminded her. Stop talking nonsense. Go call doctor. She quickly replied, Yes. Over here, doctor, please hurry. While examining the wound, he couldn't help but ask in amazement, Is serious? Is this a scratch from a wild beast? Gulloy answered in a low voice. It's an attack from a beastification power. The man was stunned and asked again, Beastification? Then isn't it? He warned in a stern voice. That's right. Remember what should be said and what shouldn't. He replied, trembling. Yes, I know. This wound doesn't carry any power. It's a purely physical attack. It looks scary, but in reality, it will heal quickly with thorough disinfection. That's it. Just pay a little attention. She might have a fever today. He added in a low voice. All right, thank you for your trouble. Not long after the doctor left, he immediately asked reproachfully, Jayla, you have no powers, and you still wanted to shield me. Are you a fool? Jayla, rest assured, I won't let you worry anymore. I will protect you. Seeing her suddenly frown and let out a soft groan, he quickly placed his hand on her forehead and said, "You have a fever." She suddenly started talking in her sleep. "Galoy, run, don't get exposed." He slowly helped her sit up and called softly, "Jayla." Just as she took a sip of medicine, she immediately coughed a few times. Then she asked with some surprise, "Galoy, this is—" He quickly reminded her, "Be careful, it's just been bandaged." She replied with a faint smile, "It's okay, you weren't exposed, were you?" He answered confidently, "Rest assured I wasn't. You were too rash, just rushing out like that." She explained with a laugh, "It was an urgent situation. It was worth it. You can't be exposed. That would be too conspicuous, and you'd be in danger." He confirmed with a faint smile, "I've remembered. The steward doesn't need to remind me anymore." She laughed helplessly and chided, "Are you still joking with me?" He suddenly asked, stammering a little, "I'm asking you, She urged impatiently, "Just say it. Why are you hesitating?" Hearing her say that, he immediately asked frankly, "If, at the ball, I were to ask you to dance, what would you think?" Not long after, as Jayla walked, she muttered to herself, "Ask me? Why would he ask me?" Suddenly, someone placed a hand on her shoulder and asked, "What are you thinking about so deeply?" She quickly turned her head and said, startled, "Your Highness the Prince." He smiled gently to reassure her, "You don't need to be tense. I just wanted to ask about your wound." She replied in a low voice, "It's not serious. Thank you for your concern, Your Highness." He bowed his head slightly and explained in a low voice, "You don't need to be afraid. I can control myself now. The beastification only goes out of control when my emotions become extreme." She said, a little flustered, I'm not." He couldn't help but ask self-reproachfully, "You must be very afraid of me, right? I'm sorry for hurting you." She suddenly widened her eyes, looked at him, and thought with admiration, "He doesn't look like a bad person." Then she quickly said encouragingly, "Your Highness, don't overthink it. I don't blame you." Hearing that, he happily suggested, "They'll take a walk with you." She hastily refused. "No need, no need." He suddenly wondered in surprise, "Hey, isn't that Galoy and Lady Betty? Are they planning to dance together at the ball?" "Their dancing is just average." Jayla said nothing and lowered her head, thinking in disappointment. "Galoy, you still can't escape the setting in." The original story? Dels suddenly praised her. Your eyes are very beautiful." She replied, flustered, Thank you." He suddenly bowed and suggested, "Beautiful lady, may I have this dance? Please don't refuse me, okay?" She replied with some surprise. Without giving her time to think, Dels quickly took her hand. Then he twirled her around and praised, "You truly are a beautiful servant." She asked blankly, He continued with a faint smile. "Look, the two of them are a good match, right? I heard that some time ago, Lady Betty told her father she wanted a marriage alliance with the Galoy family." Jayla's eyes widened in astonishment as she repeated, "Marriage alliance?" Dels calmly confirmed, "That's right, a marriage alliance. Why are you so dazed? Are you not happy?" She broke into a sweat and explained flusteredly, No, I'm just a little surprised." He smiled faintly and asked curiously, "What's so surprising about this?" Galoy and Betty, their families are well matched, a perfect pair. She lowered her head slightly and confirmed sadly, "Yes, a perfect match." Then she thought to herself, besides being the female lead, Betty is also the heir to a great family like Galoy. A marriage alliance between them isn't strange. Then she quickly repeated her earlier answer. Truly a perfect match. Hearing her say that, he couldn't help but think with some interest, shocked speechless. How interesting. At this moment, someone suddenly questioned, "What are you two doing?" Dels hurriedly let go of Jayla's hand, then pretended to be surprised and asked, "Galoy, are you two done dancing?" He frowned slightly and asked irritably, "Is your Highness the Prince also dancing with my servant?" Betty quickly stepped forward and teased with a smile, "It seems the prince is also impressed with this beautiful servant." She broke into a sweat and stammered, "Galoy, young master," he asked with concern, "has your fever gone down? Why do you have time to be outside?" Dels cheerfully interjected to explain, "We were taking a walk and just happened to see you two dancing, so we dance a little too." He involuntarily broke into a sweat, stunned, and repeated, "Saw us." She lowered her head slightly and confirmed sadly, "That's right, we saw you and Lady Betty. You danced beautifully, a very good match." As soon as he finished speaking, she also bowed at the right moment to excuse herself, saying, "I'm a little tired, please excuse me." Seeing this, Galoy called after her worriedly, "Jayla." Dels suddenly placed a hand on his shoulder and said with amusement, "Galoy, this servant of yours is very interesting." Hearing that, Betty asked curiously, "Is the prince interested in her?" Hearing that, he quickly frowned, his face darkening as he reminded him, "There are many interesting people. Your Highness shouldn't pay attention to a sick person." She asked blankly, He paid her no mind and bluntly turned, to leave. Seeing this, she couldn't help but ask, confused, "Why is he so cold?" Dels remarked with a faint smile, "It seems he cares a lot about that maid." At the same time, he hurriedly chased after her, calling out loudly, "Jayla, wait a moment." Then he quickly grabbed her hand. She immediately shook his hand off and explained coldly, "I'm a little tired. Whatever it is, we can talk about it later, young master." With that, she quickly entered her room and closed the door. Seeing this, he sighed helplessly and thought, "This is the first time Jayla has been so cold to me." At the same time, Jayla was sitting on her bed, her head bowed in disappointment, thinking, "Goloy will be attracted to Betty. It seems it can't be changed." Thinking of this, she quickly burrowed under the covers. Then she lamented loudly, "Why do I feel so disappointed?" While knocking on her door, he suggested with concern, "Jayla, eat something then rest." "Hey, Jayla," she replied coldly, "you shouldn't have come here. Next time, just have Lillian bring it." As soon as she finished speaking, Lillian also arrived at that moment, knocked on her door and said, "Steward Jayla." But unexpectedly, before she could finish her sentence, she rushed out like a gust of wind, then hurriedly snatched the plate of food from her hand and said, "Give it to me." Then she hurriedly slammed the door shut, to Lillian's bewilderment. She scratched her head and wondered, "Steward Jayla is so strange. The young master is strange too. What's wrong with him lately?" A few days later, as soon as they saw Jayla approaching, everyone quickly asked with concern, "Hello, steward. Are you well again?" She smiled faintly and replied, Thank you, everyone. Let's get back to work. The banquet is tomorrow." Goloy hurriedly walked over to ask, "Jayla, you're well. You can." She suddenly pointed forward and announced, "Goloy, it seems Lady Betty is looking for you." Betty smiled and waved, calling, "Goloy." He broke into a sweat and explained flusteredly, "Jayla and I were talking." Hearing him say that, she replied nonchalantly, "But Jayla has already left. Let's talk. You haven't left your room these past few days." Leaning towards her, Dels asked with a faint, concerned smile, "Maid, I haven't seen you out these past few days. How is your recovery?" Jayla replied, a little shyly, "Thank you for your concern. Your Highness, I've recovered. I have to go check on their work." Despite her trying to back away, he boldly stuck close to her and suggested cheerfully, "I'll go with you." Clenching his fists, Goloy thought with some unwillingness, "But I want to tell you, the person I like is." At the same time, Jayla was also silently praying in her heart, "Goloy, if fate dictates that you will love Betty, I hope you can have a different ending." That evening, while helping Goloy adjust his attire, Jayla praised, "This outfit is very beautiful." He immediately confirmed, "Yes, Jayla, you're finally paying attention to me. I was very worried." She quickly explained, "I was in a bad mood before. Today is your coming-of-age ceremony. Of course, I have to take it seriously." Hearing her say that, he couldn't help but say with relief, "Jayla, I thought you wanted to leave me." She smiled brightly and affirmed, "Rest assured I won't." Saying that, she smiled softly and thought, "No matter what the previous feelings were, I will not forget to protect you." Seeing him suddenly grab her hand, so she quickly shook his hand off, then seriously reminded him, "Today is the coming-of-age ceremony. Remember to maintain a distance when interacting with the opposite sex." As she turned to leave, he immediately muttered with certainty, "But you're different." Just then, she suddenly turned her head back and asked with some suspicion, "What did you say?" He broke into a sweat and explained awkwardly, "No, it's nothing. You'll know later." Hearing that, she laughed helplessly and remarked, You're becoming more and more childish." A moment later, as soon as they saw Gullowy arrive, all the guests began to discuss in unison, "Young Master Gullowy has arrived. That's right, looks so handsome. He will be the Count in the future." Walking straight to the priest, he bowed respectfully and greeted, "Hello, Father." He replied gently, "Hello, young Master Gullowy. From this day on, you are the one who holds power in this family." He smiled and replied, "Thank you, your majesty. Thank you, Father." Del spoke cheerfully, "Congratulations, Count Gullowy. The dance can begin now, please." He gave a faint smile and confirmed, "Then let's begin." Hearing him say that, Betty put on her brightest smile to welcome him, but unexpectedly, he didn't even glance at her. Instead, he walked straight toward Zala. This left everyone bewildered, remarking, Not Lady Betty?" Seeing this, she was stunned and called out loudly, "Gullowy." The guests at the ceremony couldn't help but whisper to each other in confusion, "Who is this?" Gullowy actually didn't choose Lady Betty. Seeing this, Betty's face darkened, and she forced a smile to ask, "Gullowy, did you mistake me for someone else?" Regardless of whether she wanted it or not, Gullowy bluntly reaffirmed his choice. "I made no mistake. Lady Zala, would you like to dance with me?" Nervous and sweating, she whispered a reminder, "Gullowy, do you know what you're doing? This is your coming-of-age ceremony." He calmly confirmed, "Of course I know. I'm asking you to dance. I've said it for a long time, I want to dance with you. Hearing him say that, she hastily refused. No, he paid no mind, bluntly taking her hand and gently proposing. Please, you are very beautiful today, worthy of a stage like this. She asked, slightly stunned. Why are you? He smiled gently and praised. You dance beautifully, Lady Zala. Don't struggle anymore. Everyone is watching. She sulked and reproached. You're so unreasonable. He suddenly leaned close to her ear and said, It's my coming-of-age ceremony. I think I still have a right to choose. She quickly retorted, but he smiled calmly and continued. Zala, I just want to invite the person I truly care about. That's not too much to ask, is it? Hearing that, she couldn't help but blush shyly and reply, Whatever, it's up to you. Betty furiously gritted her teeth and thought, This is so humiliating. Then she said in a strained voice, Aye. Just then, Dels unexpectedly approached and offered with a slight smile. Lady Betty, I wonder if I might have the honor of asking you to dance? Lady Betty, she blushed awkwardly and replied, I accept. Thank you, Your Highness. He replied graciously, You're too polite. It's what I should do. A moment later, just as Zala picked up a glass of wine, Betty suddenly walked over and asked, Do you even know how to appreciate wine? She asked blankly. Huh, Lady Betty, this wine is? Her face darkened as she questioned spitefully. I'll be blunt. Are you worthy of this kind of wine? Are you worthy of Gullowy? Hearing that, Zala immediately spoke up to remind her. Lady Betty, please mind your manners. She replied arrogantly. I don't see any need to be polite to a servant. Just then, Del suddenly approached and asked curiously, What are you talking about, beautiful ladies? She answered irritably, Ugh, I advise your highness not to bother with this servant. Your statuses are too different. He broke into a sweat, stunned, and reminded her, Hey, milady. She frowned slightly and confronted her loudly. Lady Betty, everyone has a different background. That's not a reason for you to look down on others. He quickly affirmed, That's right. I see you look elegant, but why is your mouth so foul? She asked back loudly, annoyed. What did you say? What are you two talking about? Seeing her dare to point her finger at him made her extremely indignant, and she quickly warned, Pointing at me shows you weren't taught any manners, but pointing at His Highness means you've crossed the line. Hearing that, she couldn't help but say fearfully, Aye. While leisurely sipping her wine, she spoke calmly. I will not become an obstacle between you and Gullowy. If he likes you, that won't change because of me. She asked back, half believing, half doubting. Really? She quickly put the wine glass down on the table and affirmed loudly, Believe it or not, it's up to you. Then she quickly thought, My responsibility is to protect him, that's all. Suddenly, she heard a sound like a glass falling to the ground and shattering. So Zala immediately turned her head and called out in astonishment. Gullowy. He suddenly grabbed her hand. Then he hurriedly pulled her away and said, Don't say anything. Come with me. Seeing this, Betty couldn't help but ask in astonishment, Where are they going? Later they have to. Io, Dels quickly reminded her. Don't be impatient. Being impatient is useless. Fake. Hearing him say that, she asked in utter astonishment, Sir. A moment later, in the mansion's garden, Zala hurriedly and loudly demanded, Gullowy, let go. What are you doing? What's gotten into you again? He suddenly frowned and questioned resentfully. What do you mean by an obstacle? What's this about me liking her? She broke into a sweat and suggested worriedly, Gullowy, calm down. He lowered his head slightly and replied sullenly, How can I be calm? If I stay calm, you'll abandon me. Hearing that, she quickly reassured him, Gullowy, listen to me. No matter who you like, I will not abandon you. He frowned slightly and lamented with low self-esteem. Right, because you don't care in your heart. I'm always just a child possessed by an evil spirit. She immediately refuted. That's not it. He quickly asked. Then, she seriously analyzed the reason. You're an adult now. You'll have your own life, and someone you like. You'll live peacefully and happily until the end. He quickly refuted. That's not right. You don't understand. You don't understand what I mean. She closed her eyes slightly and concluded with some helplessness. Maybe you don't need me either. He immediately affirmed. No, I do. Because the person I like is you, so I need you to understand me. Zala blushed shyly and asked back, You like me too? He immediately confirmed. Yes, I do too. A moment later, as soon as he saw Gullowy walk in, Dels whispered a comment. He's back. I didn't expect the composed Gullowy to lose his cool like that. Betty immediately confirmed. MHM, the priest announced in a loud voice. Today is not only Gullowy's coming-of-age ceremony, but also the moment of inheritance transfer. Today he can choose to confess to the woman he loves and reach an agreement to proceed with marriage. Many families also choose not to express their feelings directly. He calmly continued, I've thought it through. As soon as they saw him walk down, all the guests at the ball started whispering among themselves. It must be Lady Betty, right? Of course. I heard the Betty family and the Gullowy family arranged a marriage alliance long ago. Taking Zala's hand, he smiled gently and asked, Zala, do you agree? She smiled brightly and replied, I agree, as she said that, for some unknown reason, she suddenly started to become translucent. This made his face turn pale as he called out loudly, Zala. Seeing Gullowy suddenly acting a bit strange, Zala couldn't help but ask in confusion, Gullowy, what's wrong? His face pale with fear, he replied, Zala, you're disappearing. Thinking he was teasing her, she calmly smiled with her eyes crinkled and asked, What disappearing? I won't leave you behind. Betty screamed in terror. What is this ability? Dels was stunned and wondered to himself. Vanishing into thin air? Does such an ability exist on the continent? The guests at the ball were extremely bewildered by this and quickly began to discuss among themselves. Can she really just disappear like that? Knowing that she was indeed gradually fading away was the truth, Zala couldn't help but scream in shock. What is happening? Gullowy, he immediately reassured her. Zala, don't be afraid. No one is allowed to take you away. She asked loudly in confusion. What do I do? Gullowy, he shouted furiously, questioning. Who is it? Why do you want to take her away? As soon as he finished asking. At the same time, the ring on her hand fell to the ground. Seeing this, he screamed in panic. No. Zala, don't. She frowned slightly and said sadly, Gullowy, don't. Before she could even finish her sentence, she had completely vanished, which made Betty ask, stunned, She's gone? What a strange ability. Just then, he suddenly burst out laughing, which made her ask, a little scared. Gullowy, as he bent down to pick up the ring, he asked loudly in a strained voice, Who is it? Who on earth took Zala away? Betty frowned and reminded him indignantly, Gullowy, don't just accuse people baselessly. Maybe she has an ability but didn't tell. You. Besides, what kind of strange ability like that exists in our country? I think she. Hearing that, his face darkened and he interrogated her in a strained voice. Was it you? You couldn't stand the sight of her, could you? She quickly clarified. No, it wasn't. He questioned furiously in a strained voice. You think because she's a servant, you can do whatever you want with her, right? Her face pale, she frantically defended herself. It wasn't me. I didn't harm her. Seeing this, Dels quickly stepped forward and placed a hand on Gullowy's shoulder. Then he quickly explained. After you two left, she was with me the whole time. She had no time to harm Lady Zala. Hearing that, she quickly confirmed, Right, I didn't have time to harm her. He suddenly exclaimed, I forgot about you. You can't beat me. You wanted to get close to her. You didn't have good intentions either, did you? Dels retorted indignantly. You. Gullowy quickly shook his hand off. Then he questioned in a strained voice. Could it be you? Where did you take Zala? Dels angrily grabbed Gullowy's collar and gritted his teeth, asking back, Have you gone mad? Don't just bite anyone you see. He slowly unleashed his power and calmly confirmed, Yes. Seeing this, Dels quickly stepped back, then asked with wide, astonished eyes, You've awakened. This is the rose. He glared and shouted with certainty, I have gone mad. Seeing this, the guests at the ball hurriedly turned and ran, screaming in panic. Quick, run, it's a monster. Dels cried out in pain. Run quickly, go find someone. Suddenly using a cane to throw it straight at his head. Sully quickly ran to catch the cane and threw it to the ground, then suggested, Young master, let's go. The party can't continue. As he untangled the rose vines binding him, Dels loudly demanded, Wait, what happened today must not be spread outside. Hearing that, all the guests replied in unison, Yes. Early the next morning in Gullowy's room, while drinking wine, he let out a soft sound. A moment later, Bello suddenly opened the door and walked in, frowning in annoyance and saying, Ahem, the whole room smells of alcohol. Gullowy, he lamented with a choked voice. I'm completely sober now. It's like she never even appeared. Did she even exist? Uncle Bello, do you remember? Her. He immediately confirmed. Zala, she existed. Hearing that, he unconsciously stepped back, then lowered his head and asked himself in despair. She existed, MHM. Seeing him like this, he couldn't hold back and quickly punched him straight in the face. Then he angrily grabbed his collar and scolded loudly. Look at the state you're in now. You're covered in a curse. Do you know that? If Zala came back and saw you like this, do you think she'd be happy? Hearing that, he immediately confirmed, Right, she's coming back. I can't let her be disappointed. At the same time, in the office of the company where Zala works, she had also woken up and let out a soft sound. Then she muttered with wide, astonished eyes. This is the company. I'm back. I haven't changed at all. What's going on? Phone novel. 1 hour. So 1 hour in reality is 10 years in the book. Zala checked the phone in her hand and muttered, "Is that how it is? 10 years in the book, 1 hour in reality." She slumped her head onto the desk in frustration. What is real in the end? She shot up, unwilling to accept it. Were those 10 years real, or just a dream? Suddenly, she noticed a laptop in front of her. Oh, a camera. Right, the security camera. She dashed to a colleague's office like a flash, even shouting hastily and startling people, "Sorry, sorry." She rushed to the person's seat, not caring about anything anymore. She quickly opened the folder on the computer. Here, checking the security camera will show the situation of myself. But for that whole long hour, there was nothing but a black screen. Why is the screen black? Or was there nothing at all? She scratched her head in frustration and sighed. Seeing a small wound on her left hand while running her fingers through her hair, she suddenly remembered when she was in the story. Oh, the wound. Gullowy accidentally hurt me. Zala's tears unconsciously streamed down, soaking her face. That's great. Those 10 years were real. Everything, including him, existed. If it's real, why did I suddenly come back? What on earth did I do to come back here? Zala started to doubt everything. Could it be that ring? No, that's not right. Gullowy also wore that ring. Could it be that the glass of wine Betty gave me was the problem? That's not right either. Dels drank it too. Zala angrily slammed the teacup in her hand. Down. She was both annoyed and very tired. Zala cried out, "What is the reason?" She threw open the window and looked outside. The wind feels so nice. I wonder if Gullowy is very sad right now. The moon here seems smaller. The moon. Suddenly an idea flashed in her mind. Right? Could it be the moon? I once made a wish to the moon. Quick as a flash, she grabbed her phone and called her parents home. The company informed me I have to go on a business trip. Her father on the other end frowned with worry. This late? Zala answered without hesitation, yes. Her mother next to him leaned in and asked, "How many days will you be gone? Are you going by yourself?" Zala estimated for a moment, then told her 2-3 days, around that. "Lillian and I are going together." Her mother asked in surprise, "Lillian, I've never heard you mention her." Zala then realized she had misspoken. She replied awkwardly, just a colleague. "Oh no, it's been too long, it slipped out." Her father stopped Zala from saying anything else. He said, "All right, it's late, you should get some rest. If it's work, then work hard." Then he proactively ended the call. Her mother sighed, "Hi, this job is too hard." Zala's father put the phone back on the wooden cabinet beside him and said to his wife, "Young people are all like this nowadays. Don't worry about her all the time." Her mother suddenly sulked and blamed her husband. You don't even care about our own daughter." Her father decisively shut his eyes tightly and pretended to be asleep. Over here, after ending the call to inform her family, Zala finally relaxed a little. I almost let it slip. "Since I started this job, I've never swum in the pool. Today is the first time. Gullowy, I will find a way to come back." She cupped her hands and scooped up some of the blue water from the pool. Perhaps she didn't even realize her own face had become much gentler. "Because I have loved you for a long time." Zala stood up straight. She stared intently at the pool in front of her. Zala whispered softly, "Let it work this one time." She didn't hesitate any longer. Zala jumped into the cool water with a splash. Zala kept her eyes shut tightly. She let herself slowly sink to the bottom of the pool. "Gullowy, wait for me." However, after only a moment, she surfaced from the water, panting heavily. Zala trudged inside, step by step. "I can't go back even like this. Cough, cough, this is too hard. Or maybe I should try a less painful way. Cough, this picture, don't disappoint me again." Zala's face became serious as she looked straight ahead. She once again hurt herself by banging her head against the wall. Her forehead was red and swollen after that. Zala had to hold her forehead and rub it for a long time. She plopped down on a chair and said sadly, "I've jumped in the pool. I've hit the wall. Why can't I still go back?" She even climbed up and turned the clock hands backward. This time it should work, right? But life isn't always what you dream it to be. She failed and became disheartened. "Gullowy." Zala caressed Gullowy's picture on her phone. "What on earth do I have to do to get back to your side?" Objects in the room were scattered all over the floor, as if a huge storm had just swept through. Gullowy was dead drunk, the power of the curse tightly surrounding him. Gullowy kept muttering, "Zala." Someone's voice echoed in his ear, "What on earth do I have to do to get back to your side?" Gullowy suddenly woke up. His fingers twitched slightly. Gullowy sat up with a start, unconsciously calling out a name, not even caring that his own body was in immense pain. Zala. Was that just a dream? Gullowy staggered to his feet, but because he wasn't completely sober yet, his legs were unsteady. Gullowy walked to the large mirror hanging on the opposite wall, looking at his disheveled self, and couldn't help but sigh. Could it be that meeting Zala was just a dream? No, she wasn't a hallucination. He forced himself to remember everything that had happened with her before. It is said that every person in the Empire, upon coming of age, will have their family crest painted on their face. It symbolizes the blessing of the ancestors and gods. Our Gullowy is also a child blessed by the gods. I smiled so happily back then. How? But then, in the next second, an urgent knock on the door interrupted that blessing. Steward, there is a matter that needs your attention. Gullowy still had no idea that she would no longer be able to paint for him. He still smiled innocently at her. You go? I'll wait for you here. Now, tears of regret streamed down his anguished face. Zala, you still haven't painted for me. He staggered towards the door. I have to go find her. He just ran headlong forward without noticing that Lillian was also there. He bumped hard into Lillian. The sound was not small at all. Lillian cried out in alarm. Young master, why are you outside? Are you sick again? Here. Gullowy lowered his head to the ground and sneered coldly. Besides her, who else cares if I'm sick or not? Suddenly he grabbed Lillian's arm very tightly. Then he shouted angrily at her, you know Zala too, so she did exist, right? Being grabbed so tightly, Lillian was a bit startled. It hurts. The young master is sick. He's starting to doubt even himself. She could only coax him by saying, right, she existed. Or, let's go to the steward's room to have a look. Maybe we can find a clue. Lillian's reminder made Gullowy pause. He quickly agreed. Right, let's go have a look. She must have left something behind. Let's go. Lillian took him to Zala's former bedroom. Lillian turned her head to look at him with a concerned gaze. Young master. Gullowy suddenly stepped back. He muttered in fear, I don't dare. You go look, is the rose token still there? A single tear fell silently to the floor, so quietly that Lillian was completely unaware. She was just focused on his words, the rose token. Gullowy smiled gently, but the corner of his brow furrowed slightly. Right? I gave her the rose token. He stood silently outside the room, watching Lillian's every move. Lillian searched the room for a while, then called out, Young master, there's nothing here. Gullowy cried out, startled. What? He rushed into the room, forgetting the fear that had enveloped him from his insecurity just moments before her. He stood in the middle of the room as if frozen. Only Lillian was clear-headed enough to search in another place. She went to Zala's bed and lifted the blanket. Then Lillian let out a soft cry of joy. Here it is. Quick as a flash, Gullowy walked to Lillian's side and smiled. That's great. She must have been driven away. Otherwise, she would have taken the token. Someone must have taken her away. Lillian still asked him, a little confused, but young master, how do we find her? Don't you feel this room is a little too clean? Gullowy had only just noticed this issue. He turned his head and looked around the room. Suddenly, a shrill cry came from outside the door. My lord, His Highness the Prince and Lady Betty have arrived. Gullowy frowned in annoyance. He immediately told Lillian, you go and hold them off. I'll go freshen up and be right there. Lillian nodded and replied, yes. Sure enough, the two of them were sitting comfortably in the living room. Dell said with a dark face. That day, Gullowy's awakened energy was too strong. But Betty was the complete opposite of him. She didn't feel scared by it all, and even exclaimed, yes, very strong. This is a warrior worthy of admiration. Dell said contemptuously, I was just caught off guard then. Today I must definitely test him again. Betty clicked her tongue with some disgust. Suddenly, at this moment, Lillian appeared. Your Highness, Dells immediately asked her, where is your master? Lillian smiled and replied, my master is changing his clothes. He will be out shortly. Dell smiled, though. That beautiful servant hasn't returned yet? It seems your master has suffered emotional damage. Lillian really felt like hitting him. It's just like the rumors say. He doesn't know how to talk at all. But as a servant, she couldn't be disrespectful to a superior. She forced a laugh. Your Highness is joking. Betty, next to Dells, then spoke with contempt. Just a servant. What's there to be heartbroken about? Dells leaned close to her ear and mocked. You're so noble, yet he still doesn't like you. You're not even as good as a servant girl. Sure enough, only his way of talking could seal her arrogance. You. At the same time, Gullowy came down from upstairs with a not-so-friendly expression. I wasn't looking for you two, yet you brought yourselves to my door. Dells and Betty still hadn't realized the seriousness in his words, and even called out cheerfully, "You're finally here." Betty called his name, Gullowy, but in the next second, Gullowy unleashed his power. Dells quickly pulled Betty aside, dodging one of Gullowy's attacks. He's gone mad. Betty turned her head and called, "Gullowy." Dells shouted to stop her. "Stop being infatuated. He's very dangerous now." Dells grabbed Betty and quickly fled for his life. He didn't forget to send a provocative word to Gullowy. "Indeed, very strong, worthy of being my rival. We'll spar another day." Gullowy stood there alone, his hands clenched into fists. Lillian brought a plate of food and called softly, "Young master, you should eat something." However, Gullowy said coldly, "I have no appetite. I've decided I'm going to the front lines." Lillian cried out, startled. What? Gullowy seemed to have truly made up his mind. Zala said her home is on the other side of the mountain, across the ocean. Even if I have to give my all, trade everything, I must find her. A new day arrived because of the act of jumping into the pool to find her way back to the other world. This morning, Zala's whole body was tired and weak. It hurts so much. Struggling like that still had no effect. "What are you doing? Are you looking for me too?" The image on the phone screen changed to a different interface. Gullowy smiled and asked her, "Beautiful lady, would you like to dance with me?" Zala. His call truly made her heart ache. Tears fell like rain. "You must be very sad, right? Moon, can you really hear my prayers? I need to ask you, can you let me go back? He needs me. Please, let me return. Please." The clock had really stopped. Time stood still, 2 a.m. At Gullowy's camp, a soldier cried out in alarm. Something's wrong. That guy had just appeared behind the tent flap. His legs were immediately bound tightly by Gullowy's magic threads. Gullowy was furious. No discipline. The guy dropped to his knees like a flash, his whole body trembling. My lord, I was wrong. Please spare my life." Gullowy frowned tightly. He said unhappily, "If you break the rules, you don't get to ask for mercy." Mr. Bello appeared from behind. He patted him lightly on the shoulder and said, "That's enough. There's no need to actually kill him." Gullowy heard that and didn't make things difficult for him or the soldier anymore. "MHM." The soldier lowered his head, crying out profusely, "Thank you, my lord, for sparing my life." Gullowy immediately asked him, "Just say it, what is it?" The soldier stammered, It's a border town that was attacked by the enemy. They need reinforcements." Gullowy snorted coldly, his face darkening. "Humph." Mr. Bello looked at him. "Young master." Gullowy suddenly said, "I'll go." Mr. Bello didn't expect him to say that. He quickly said, "No, let me send a team." But Gullowy acted as if he didn't hear. He turned to leave, lightly reminding the man that, as it happens, I'm free to do some self-training. Today was thanks to the general pleading for you, if there's a next time. The soldier trembled like a leaf, vowing to never repeat the offense. Gullowy just walked straight out of the tent. Mr. Pello let out a sigh. Gullowy's mood is becoming more and more erratic. Outside, Rose seemed to be waiting for his instructions. "My lord." Gullowy looked at him and said, "Rose, get ready. We're heading out tonight as reinforcements." All the soldiers cheered with joy upon hearing this. "We finally get a fight. I've been restless these past few days of rest. This is great. Gullowy's voice also softened when he saw their morale. "When we get there, you must show me your strength." All the soldiers shouted in unison. Understood. Gullowy returned to his own room alone. He sadly mumbled, "Still haven't found it. I've looked everywhere." He angrily threw the pen to the ground. Gullowy shouted, "Beyond the mountains are more mountains. Beyond the sea is more sea. Where on earth are you, Zala? Will I ever be able to see you again?" A voice called out from outside the tent. "A letter has arrived from His Highness." Rose appeared with a wooden box in his hand. "This is a letter from His Highness. Do you wish to see it now?" Gullowy placed his hand on the table and gestured to him. "Let me see." "You read it." Rose accepted the order. "Yes." "Dear Your Highness, when will you return? Have you not yet found that deity?" Gullowy cut him off. He said, "The mysterious beautiful maid, right?" Rose didn't expect him to ask such a question. "Yes." Gullowy suddenly changed his attitude. "Fold the letter." Rose stammered awkwardly. Strange, but Gullowy's face was gloomy. His voice turned several shades colder. "No need. He's just curious to see the extent of my abilities." "All right, go and prepare." Rose bowed his head and replied, "Yes, sir." The sky quickly darkened. Zala seemed to have returned to this world. She appeared from behind a bush. "Phew, where is this?" While she was still wondering what to do, a cold sword was suddenly pressed against her neck. The person on the other side shouted, Who? Who are you? Why are you loitering at the border? Zala was terrified. A sharp sword against one's neck. Who wouldn't be scared? Zala stammered. I am the maid of the young Master Galoy. I have the rose token. The soldier frowned in annoyance. There has never been a woman by his side. He didn't speak quietly, so he attracted Galoy's attention. What rose token? Do you know how precious that token is? Galoy was startled. He immediately ordered a halt. Stop. I'm going to take a look. Rose sat on his saddle with an anxious heart. My lord, He gently pushed aside a few leaves in front of him and saw right before him the person he had been longing for. I really am his servant. Galoy was stunned. He softly called her name, Zala. Hearing someone call her name, Zala turned her head. She immediately shouted, Galoy, it's me. Galoy also cried out, Zala. Zala, out of disappointment, blurted out, It's not Galoy. Rose suddenly appeared before her from somewhere with a concerned expression. I heard someone say. The soldier who had caught her earlier now became difficult. He pointed at Zala's face and said, Ah, that's right. Sir, it's this crazy woman. She claims to have a rose token. Zala cried out impatiently, I really do have it. The man still refused to listen to her. He just kept the knife to her neck and yelled, Do you know what the rose token is? Only the king has that token. How could someone of unknown origin like you have it? Zala was harshly criticized, even though she hadn't said anything wrong at all. Rose then spoke up and asked, You said you have a rose token? Zala quickly looked at him and affirmed, Yes, I have it. I am the maid of Lord Galoy. Rose frowned, as if he was trying to consider if there was any flaw in her words. You are his person. Where is your token? Zala looked at Rose with a worried gaze. Can you find him? I don't have my token with me, but you just need to tell him that my name is. The soldier didn't want to argue anymore. He lunged towards her with a stab and shouted, Sir, don't get involved with this lying woman anymore. Suddenly, at this moment, a desperate scream called her name. Zala. She was focused on escaping from the soldier. That soldier. Hearing the call, Zala was distracted and stumbled. She cried out in alarm. It's Galoy. He appeared right behind her, also frightened because Zala had stumbled. Zala was caught by Galoy with his rose vines. She was very surprised. Your Highness, it's really you. Galoy was furious. He turned to scold the men from before. What are you doing? Killing someone without a clear reason? The soldier from earlier knew he had made a real mistake. He dropped to his knees, his mouth rambling. My lord, please calm your anger. Zala tightly gripped the hem of Galoy's tunic, stopping his anger from exploding. Galoy looked at her with an incredibly gentle gaze. Zala, you finally decided to come back. Zala also exclaimed, Your Highness, you've changed so much. Galoy didn't wait for her to finish her sentence, immediately lifting her into his arms and saying, Let's not talk about that right now. I'll get you out of here first. Are you cold? Even though Galoy had draped a thick coat over her front, Zala still couldn't help but sneeze. It's a little cold. Galoy jumped onto his horse and returned to the camp with her. Let's go. Rose watched the horse's silhouette fade into the distance, thinking to himself, as expected, it's just like the rumors. There wasn't much noise around the camp. As soon as he saw him, a sentry immediately greeted, My lord. Galoy jumped off his horse, but he kept Zala held tightly in his arms. I'll take you inside. The soldier who had greeted Galoy received no reply from him. He was quite flustered, not knowing what to do next. General Rose. General Rose tossed his cloak to him and reminded him, Hold this for me. Be a little more perceptive. The soldier immediately understood. Yes, General Rose. Inside the tent, Galoy gently called a name, Zala. She quietly observed her surroundings for a moment, then asked him, Galoy, where is this? Galoy answered her, A military camp, Perot's frontline military camp. Why are you dressed so lightly? Zala looked into his eyes and said, I didn't think I would. Before she could finish her words, Zala was immediately made shy by Galoy's intense gaze. You seem to have matured a lot. Galoy laughed in utter helplessness. Of course, I'm 26 years old now. Zala, do you know? You've been gone for 10 years. Zala didn't know what to say. So it's true that 1 hour outside the book is equal to 10 years in the book. If I hadn't returned in time, wouldn't he have had to wait until he was old and frail? Galoy set her down on a chair and said, But Zala, you haven't changed at all. Zala wanted to explain to him. That's because, however, someone interrupted their conversation. Sir, the meal is ready. Zala seized this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity like a flash. She gave a mischievous grin. Hee, I'm hungry. She followed him to the dining area. Galoy gallantly pulled out a chair for her. Then he even teased her humorously. Frontline supplies are quite simple. You'll have to make do. Zala smiled and replied, This is already very good. Aren't you eating? Gulloy watched her eat dinner beside him, replying softly, I'm not hungry yet. I want to watch you eat first. A maidservant brought food for the two of them. For some reason, seeing this scene from afar made her tremble uncontrollably. She, whether accidentally or intentionally, spilled the pot of curry in her hands. Gulloy frantically lunged towards the person sitting next to him. Zala. He used his entire arm to shield Zala from being burned by the curry pot. He angrily yelled at the maid, What kind of work is this? The maid was scared to tears. She whimpered, Sir, I didn't do it on purpose. Zala was just as startled as he was. She came forward and asked Gulloy, Are you all right? It's burned red. Gulloy gently reassured her, I'm fine. Suddenly, at this moment, a soldier opened the door and announced, Sir, General Rose says. However, Gulloy gave him absolutely no chance to speak. He shouted, cutting him off, Do you have any discipline? Get out now. The very next second, he had a pause because of his own actions. He immediately looked over at Zala with a cautious gaze. Zala, did I scare you? Zala was a little surprised, not scared. Let's eat. Gulloy, he's changed so much. Gulloy got her a piece of cake. Eat this. Zala hurriedly averted her gaze. Oh, right. Gulloy had seen her evasive action. He said in a low voice, Eat slowly. Zala nodded repeatedly. Disappointment and self-blame intertwined in Gulloy's heart, to the point that he unconsciously clenched his fist. The night grew late. The camp was quiet all around. Gulloy led her to his room. Tonight, we will sleep here. Zala was a little surprised by his suggestion. Is this the place you used to live in? Gulloy smiled and replied, That's right. I was afraid that when you came back, you wouldn't be used to a new place. Zala unconsciously replied, Right. The door behind her closed shut. After she said that, the entire room fell silent. Gulloy suddenly hugged her and said affectionately, That's why I specially recreated the place you used to live in. Zala cried out in alarm. What are you doing? Her ankle, since when, was now shackled by a rather exquisite chain. Gulloy smiled and said to Zala, To lock you up, of course, so that you and I will never be apart again. Zala was terrified. She unconsciously backed away to avoid him. No, however, she took a step back. Gulloy took another step forward. Can you escape? What are you hiding from? This chain, I have prepared it for 8 years. This pearl, I retrieved it from the distant open sea. This pigeon's blood ruby, I dug it from the most remote mountain. Beyond the great mountains, farther than the ocean, where is your homeland? Stunned and shocked to see tears streaming down Gulloy's face, Zala didn't know what to say. My homeland. You become. Gulloy finished her sentence. Strange, right? No matter what, you can only be with me. Zala couldn't hold back her tears at this point, but Gulloy gave her no other chance. He picked her up. All right, Zala, you're too tired. Get some rest. Zala turned inward, her heart feeling heavy. Too strange, Gulloy. The maidservant saw Gulloy and said, My lord, Lady Zala refuses to eat. He held out his hand and told the maidservant, Give it to me. The maidservant quickly handed him the food tray. Yes, sir. Gulloy opened the door to the room and entered with a worried look. What's wrong? Not used to this kind of food? Zala didn't expect him to come here for her. She quickly sat up and slowly backed away. When she saw him touch the chain on her ankle, Zala cried out in alarm. Don't. Gulloy still held her foot and said, You'll catch a cold. It's better to wear shoes. Zala kicked it off her foot, her tone filled with extreme disgust. So what if I wear shoes? Where can I go when I'm locked up? Gulloy's voice suddenly turned cold. Go where? Where else do you want to go? Zala was frightened by his coldness. You. At that moment, Gulloy truly came back to his senses. Don't be afraid, I was just... Zala shouted in frustration, so cautious that even the grass and trees make you wary. You should go. I want to sleep for a while. He reached out to touch her, but Zala moved away. Gulloy really didn't know what to do. Zala, this time, let me coax you, Zala. He sat in her room until it got dark. Gulloy kept talking to Zala, even though she didn't reply. Zala, you say I don't trust you, but do you know? You haven't changed at all, so why wouldn't I be scared? Outside, Rose seemed to be looking for her residence. This is the place. The maidservant came out from inside with a tired sigh. The young lady is really something. Rose gently avoided her gaze, slipping against the wall behind him. Rose observed his surroundings for a moment, then entered the room. As soon as he reached the door, he heard Zala say, I really don't want to eat. Can you please stop coming? If you come again, I will. Who are you? How did you get in? If you take another step, I will. Rose raised both his hands and hurriedly said, Please calm down. We've met before that night in the forest. Zala started searching her memory. The forest? Are you that vice general? Rose replied with a friendly smile. Yes, that's me. Zala sat down on the chair. Is something wrong? Rose leaned against the wall and said, I also want to ask about Lord Gulloy. Zala didn't expect him to say that. I also want to ask you, why has he become like this? Rose suddenly asked her in return. You mean he wasn't like this before? Well, would you like to hear the story from my perspective? Zala nodded and replied, yes, please, thank you. Rose breathed a sigh of relief. It's my honor. The first time I met him was at my father's place. That is, General Perot. How should I put it? A gaunt face, empty eyes. Zala cried out, how could that be? However, Rose was completely calm. You may not believe it, but my first impression was, this person won't live for much longer. At that time, Pello had patted Rose's shoulder and said to Galoy, this is my adopted son, a brave and talented warrior. I will have him follow and assist you. At that time, Galoy only gave a perfunctory reply, hello, I am Galoy. Rose smiled at him, hello, sir, it's a great honor to meet you. During battle, Galoy was very concerned about him. Rose, watch out. Rose looked towards him in alarm. My lord. He caught the arrow flying towards Rose with one hand. He broke it and hissed, you dare touch my person. It seems you people want to die. While recalling the image of Galoy calmly drawing his sword from its sheath, Rose confirmed in a serious tone, this is the lord in my memory, decisive and valiant. After hearing this, Zala couldn't help but feel admiration and quickly asked, Galoy, was it like that? He smiled faintly and reaffirmed, of course, his abilities are very strong. He commands troops with divine skill. I always thought he was heaven's favorite, until during another celebration, I heard your name from his lips. Pointing at her own face, she asked in astonishment, huh? Hearing her question, he unconsciously recalled that day. Seeing Galoy just leaning against the wall, swirling the wine in his glass without drinking, made Rose ask out of curiosity, my lord, are you not going to drink later? He coldly explained, I don't like crowds. Just then, a soldier came over, bowed respectfully, and reported, my lord, news has arrived. They say they've found the place you were looking for. Hearing this, he was overjoyed and immediately smiled and exclaimed, that's great. Zala, beyond the mountains is another mountain. Beyond the sea is another sea. I've found you. As soon as Rose said this, Zala could no longer hold back and said with choked tears, so his life has been that hard. He confirmed with teary, sad eyes, yes. Later, my father told me that he used to be a gentle and gallant person. So what on earth made him change so much? It's because he couldn't find you. His life never had a single happy day. She nodded, choking back tears, and continued, that's right, for 10 whole years. Then, as she pushed the door open, she thought, why hasn't he changed at all? Then she hesitated slightly and suggested, go tell Galoy, I want to have a meal with him. The brown-haired maidservant heard this and replied, oh, all right. Seeing that she had left, she quickly closed the door. Then, looking out the window, she mumbled with some surprise, it's completely silent, isn't it? At the same time, upon hearing someone knock on the door and say, my lord, Galoy immediately ordered, come in. The brown-haired maidservant heard this, quickly opened the door, entered the room, and said, the young lady, she. He eagerly asked, what about her? The brown-haired maidservant replied, she said she wants to have a meal with you. Hearing this, he immediately stood up and asked joyfully, really, did she really say that? Please help me iron my clothes for tonight. I want to cook myself. She hurriedly bowed and replied, yes. A moment later, Galoy suddenly asked worriedly, does it look okay? The brown-haired maidservant heard this and replied with a beaming smile, very good, very neat, my lord. He eagerly placed his hands on the cart and suggested, let me go in. She replied, yes. As soon as she saw Galoy personally pushing the food cart into the room, Zala hurriedly offered, let me help you. He gently refused. Don't do anything. It's very heavy. Let me do it. With that, he gently placed each plate of food on the table. Seeing that his hand was injured, she quickly called out, Galoy. He gently reassured her. It's nothing. She worriedly took his hand and asked with a hint of reproach, it's already like this and you still say it's nothing? He gently explained, I wanted to make something for you myself, but I'm not skilled. While blowing on his hand, she suggested caringly, if you're not skilled, then don't do it anymore. He blushed with embarrassment and said, Zali. She quickly looked up and expressed her concern. Loy, you really don't need to be so careful. You must be very scared, right? Hearing her ask this, he couldn't help but feel anxious and replied, Zala, I'm very scared. She looked at him with teary eyes and affirmed, I'll come back and I won't leave again, for sure. He replied, okay. She suddenly asked with some shyness, so it doesn't need to be locked anymore, right? Seeing that he didn't answer, made her ask in surprise. Galoy. He gently pushed the plate of steak towards her and gently suggested, eat this. She frowned in annoyance and asked, Galoy, I'm talking to you. Seeing him avoid the issue again, made her raise her voice in anger and demand, say something. He suddenly clenched his fist and slammed it on the table, then loudly refused. "No, you say you don't want to leave. How can you prove it?" She broke out in a worried sweat and replied. "You." He frowned slightly and questioned loudly. "When you leave, you won't come back. Do you know what the concept of 10 years is? 10 years, giving it my all, and still not being able to find one person. Do you know what that feels like?" She frowned and shouted, demanding, "Don't say any more." He continued with a choked voice. "Forever failing, forever not finding. You don't understand. You don't understand." A while later, as soon as Lillian saw Goloy approaching, she asked happily, "My lord, Steward Zala is back." He replied, she's back. She's angry with me. Go and talk to her a little." She asked in surprise. "Angry? Okay, let me go and see." "Steward, it's me." As soon as she heard her voice, Zala quickly turned her head and asked with a bright smile, "Lillian, is that Lillian?" The moment she saw her face, Lillian was so astonished that her eyes widened and she asked loudly, "Steward, your face. Why hasn't it changed at all?" Thank you for watching today's video. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead. So don't forget to press like and subscribe to the channel to support us and not miss the latest story episodes. We wish you moments of relaxation and fun. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.